Warcraft Invasion of Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Who Smashed the Rainbow Bridge? Part 1. The sword was inserted into the base, and the power of the Rainbow Bridge no longer poured towards Jotunheim, and the passage between the two worlds was closed. Asgard's divine power quickly expelled the Frost divine power, and the world tree carved by ice slowly disappeared. Everything returned to normal, but the Rainbow Bridge did not close. Instead, it was aimed at another place. Heimdall. Looking at the mighty and strong god, Loki was almost crazy. After so much effort for so long, paying so much, and betting everything on himself, he failed, completely failed, which made him feel bad. He wanted to eat the culprit alive. He turned his head to look at Lao Wang, and gritted his teeth. You brought him here. You also used invisibility on him. You destroyed everything I have. Loki rushed towards Lao Wang with the Spear of Eternity. Anger makes people lose their reason and become fearless. Loki is a godlike existence on Earth. In fact, his strength in all aspects is not much worse than that of Thor, who has not awakened, but he is not good at fighting. Now he is desperate to attack Lao Wang, and his momentum is really strong. Fifth, it was never me who destroyed you, but you yourself. Lao Wang avoided the Spear of Eternity, and raised his foot. It was an ordinary kick, but in a flash, he kicked the man's most vital part. Ah! A shrill scream rang out. The body density of Asgardians is 3 times that of humans, and their physical strength and skin defense capabilities are naturally far more than 3 times, but for some vital parts, they are actually not much stronger than humans. Besides, although Lao Wang just kicked casually, the power is more than 10 tons. Bang! Loki flew backwards, covering his lower body and wailing. The scream spread throughout the Rainbow Bridge. Even Heimdall, who was hundreds of meters away, tensed up all over. A pair of golden eyes swept over Lao Wang, thinking that this man was really terrible and should not be provoked. In someone else's territory, of course you can't kill someone else's son. Lao Wang only used 1/10 of his strength, but he didn't expect Loki to fall down. He really couldn't help it. He clapped his hands and saw Loki getting up from the ground, enduring the pain that a man could not bear. His facial features were twisted together, and it was painful to look at. Then he touched his head and reminded him kindly. Sixth, your enemy is not me. Thor appeared in a burst of colorful golden light, looking at the world tree and the frost power that had not completely disappeared, and then looking at a certain part of the dilapidated Rainbow Bridge. Thor was completely angry. Loki, you actually want to use the Rainbow Bridge to destroy Jotunheim? You still want to destroy the Rainbow Bridge? You are sorry for your father. You are sorry for your mother. You are sorry for me. You are sorry for Asgard. Loki, I didn't want to destroy the Rainbow Bridge. I still want to be the king of Asgard and rule the 9 realms with the army of Asgard. How could I joke about my own things? Thor, do you have a brain? It was your fake brother who did it. Loki didn't have time to explain. Thor, who was extremely angry, rushed over with a hammer, wanting to teach this useless brother a lesson. Thor, you are crazy. The Rainbow Bridge was smashed by the Iron Fist. Loki was in pain and frustrated, and hurried to explain. Loki, what did our father teach us? It's not terrible to make mistakes, but it's terrible not to admit them. Thor was disappointed. The king is the immortal Iron Fist and the guardian of the earth. He is a figure like Heimdall. Heimdall will not lie, and the king will not lie. Heimdall, who wanted to tell the truth, suddenly didn't know what to say. Thor, you are still too young. In fact, sometimes I will lie too. The battle between Thor's hammer and the Eternal Spear is very magnificent. In Asgard, people step on the Rainbow Bridge and get endless divine power. The strength of the two is several times that of when they were on Earth. It is really a beautiful scenery. The two love and kill each other, and fight to their heart's content on the Rainbow Bridge. The old king shrugged, feeling a little bored, and walked into the temple along the Rainbow Bridge. Heimdall was frozen in the ice box. Although he had been treated by the Asgardian doctor and Lao Wang, and had taken a lot of the essence of the Eternal Well, he was still obviously a little weak. His face, which was almost as black as a boiled egg, turned pale due to the pain. He drew out the sword, leaned on the ground, and panted heavily. "Are you okay? Do you want to drink 2 more sips?" Lao Wang took out the bottle of eternal water and handed it to him with a look of concern. "No, I have Asgard's divine power to replenish it, so I don't need it." Looking at the immortal Iron Fist in front of him who was as warm as a boy next door, Heimdall felt a little complicated. "Immortal Iron Fist, what is your purpose?" Fighting with Odin in the air caused Odin to fall into a deep sleep several hours earlier, and the sleep time was much longer than before, and it might even shorten his life. Beating Loki twice, designing to destroy the Destroyer and the Frost Giants, to prevent Loki from killing Thor, grabbing Loki's head, preventing Loki from destroying Jotunheim, almost destroying the Rainbow Bridge. What is the purpose of this series of actions? I just want to help Thor. Lao Wang looked sincere. He took a sip, put away the eternal water bottle, and melon seeds and beer appeared in his hands. "You watch the door every day, don't you have time to go to Earth? Let me tell you, there are a lot of delicious food on Earth. Try it." Heimdall remained silent. "You little guy is very bad. I don't believe it." "Of course, you can't just say this, right? Iron Fist is now the benefactor of Asgard." Seeing Lao Wang summon the hammer from another universe with his own eyes, he was as sure as Odin that this man really had the confidence to not fear Odin and must be treated equally. "Hey, isn't this Midgard's famous caramel melon seeds and pure draft beer, and it's still iced? It looks delicious and delicious. You don't believe it?" Seeing that Heimdall didn't seem to have much appetite, Lao Wang looked regretful. He drank a bottle of beer, cracked a dozen melon seeds, and laughed. "Well, actually my purpose is very simple. The Earth is my territory, and everything I do is to protect the Earth and to make the Earth stronger." Heimdall nodded silently. This is more or less true. If the Supreme Sorcerer uses a levitation cloak to cause trouble in Asgard, he will also fight in the air to defend Asgard's territory and sovereignty. If the immortal Iron Fist goes to Asgard to cause trouble, he will definitely teach him a lesson and let the Supreme Sorcerer come to lead the people. Wait, that guy seems to have come. Heimdall has the urge to draw his sword and chop him. But he is not here to cause trouble, and he saved Odin and me. The key is that I can't beat him. By the way, do you have a vacation? If you have time to go to Earth for vacation, find me. I will take you to eat delicious food and have fun. Lao Wang is serious this time. Heimdall is a good person. Loyal, strong, brave, and smart. You can make friends. Heimdall is silent. Vacation? It seems that he has never had one. The two obviously have nothing in common. After a while of awkward chatting, they cast their eyes on the Rainbow Bridge at the same time. The battle did not last too long. Thor's strength is still stronger than Loki. "Loki, surrender. Go and admit your mistakes to your father. I will speak for you." Thor's face was full of expectation. Climbing up from the Rainbow Bridge for the nth time, Loki's expression was like the Sichuan opera face changing 7 times in less than 10 seconds. "Thor, are you humiliating me, or is it the mercy of the victor? I don't need it. Father, I still can't get your approval, even if I'm willing to destroy my people and kill my biological father for you. Mother, have you seen it? The whole universe is biased. In this case, why should I stay? Thor, you force me to do this." Loki gritted his teeth and rushed towards Thor. "Don't repent." Thor snorted and smashed Loki into smoke with the hammer. Smoke disappeared. "No, this is an illusion. What are you hiding? It's all over." The real Loki appeared in another place. He held the eternal spear tightly in both hands and aimed it at the broken Rainbow Bridge under his feet. Insert it forcefully. Chapter 302, Falling Together, Part 2. In terms of hardness alone, the Rainbow Bridge and the Destroyer are roughly at the same level, and may even be higher. And there is also the protection of the divine power of the entire Asgard. Needless to say, the power of Ragnaros, the Fire Lord, is naturally very powerful. When the eternal Fire Elemental Lord is angry, he also has the ability to destroy the world. He can easily turn the flat land into a flaming mountain, which is no worse than Surtur at his peak. The hammer of Sulphurus is made of extremely precious sovereign iron, arcanite, and black iron, and is integrated with the eye of Sulphurus, which represents part of the authority of the fire element. Whether it is material or hardness, it is equivalent to Thor's hammer. Even if the Hulk stands in front of it, he can smash it away with one hammer. But there is still no way to smash the Rainbow Bridge. Thor can't do it, and Loki can't do it even more. Whether it is divine power or strength, he is a step behind Thor, and the authority of the Spear of Eternity has been taken back by Odin, so his ability is limited. As the weapon of the Father of the Gods, the Spear of Eternity possesses endless power. In Odin's hands, it is not too difficult to destroy the stars. But in Loki's hands, all permissions were taken back, and he could not even exert 1,000th or 1/10,000th of his power. It stands to reason that, even if he was allowed to stab it 100 times or 1,000 times, it would not be possible to damage the Rainbow Bridge. The problem is, just about 3 minutes ago, the Rainbow Bridge had been smashed to pieces by the hammer of Sulfurus, full of cracks and flying debris. It was only a hair's breadth away from destruction, and it could not withstand the force of a single stab. Loki's weak shot was the last straw that broke the camel's back. No. At the moment when Loki fiercely inserted it, Thor flew over with Thor's hammer. However, just as Thor flew in front of Loki, the Spear of Eternity had completely pierced the Rainbow Bridge. Boom. The violent explosion set off a destructive storm of the cosmic disaster level. With no time to react, the entire temple and a small part of the Rainbow Bridge fell. Under his feet was a deep and unknowable void, in which there were endless storms and space vortices formed by energy collapse. A suction force far exceeding the void rift was constantly swallowing up everything, including Lao Wang and Heimdall. Below the temple was the entrance to the World Tree, a space channel connecting the entire universe. Space and time were originally the most mysterious and noble forces in the universe. The World Tree, which spanned countless light years and connected the 9 realms, had countless wormholes hidden in it. Each wormhole was equivalent to a cross-galaxy portal, containing unpredictable huge energy. The Rainbow Bridge itself also condensed energy beyond Odin. Part of this energy gushed out in an instant, because the bridge deck was disconnected. The output power per second was even greater than the total of the previous 1-minute attack on Jotunheim. Enough energy to destroy the planet destroyed countless wormholes in the vast void. These wormholes began to collapse as they were destroyed, and the power of collapse swallowed everything like a black hole. The Rainbow Bridge itself had the ability to open wormholes for transmission, and now so many wormholes were opened at the same time, and the suction generated was irresistible to anyone. The terrifying energy vortex was 10 or 100 times more terrifying than the Great Vortex in Azeroth. The turbulent energy turbulence made any magic weak and ineffective. In this situation, Loki could not cast spells. Thor could not fly, Heimdall could not mobilize any divine power, and even the Old King did not have time to exchange any spells, and the exchange was useless. Even Medivh could not cast spells normally in this situation. The Old King, Heimdall, Thor, Loki, everyone was falling towards countless wormholes. Loki fell with his face up and laughed wildly. The Rainbow Bridge has never been broken. No one knows what kind of disaster this will cause, but he is very happy to bring disaster to this sad place. Although I don't know if I will die here. Even if I die, there will be 3 people buried with me, including my good brother. Enough. I caught you. Thor didn't care whether he was falling or not. He only cared about his younger brother. No matter how bad or annoying this younger brother was, he was still his younger brother after all. Even though they have different blood flowing in their bodies, no one can replace the 1,000 years of getting along. This feeling is not something that ordinary people can understand. He reluctantly adjusted his posture, grabbed the eternal spear in Loki's hand, held the spearhead tightly, and shouted, "Loki, don't let go." Because they were at the end of the Rainbow Bridge, and were subjected to a more terrible energy impact, Lao Wang and Heimdall flew higher at the beginning and fell later. Heimdall suddenly burst out all his divine power, moved his position in the energy storm, and stretched out the sword in his hand to Thor. "Catch me." Thor hurriedly grabbed it. The huge suction force forced him to use all his strength. The sharp sword edge cut his palm, and a lot of blood flowed along his arm to his body, and then flowed along the other arm to the eternal spear, and finally flowed to Loki's hand. What a naughty child. Lao Wang sighed. He was willing to swear to the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother that he really didn't think about destroying the Rainbow Bridge, but just scared Loki. Although I made so many cracks in the rainbow bridge, it can still be used after repairing it, right? What about now? Loki actually destroyed the rainbow bridge. The last blow was not done by me, okay? Odin, please don't blame me. Lao Wang, who knows the plot, knows very well that, even if he lets go and falls, there is a high probability that nothing will happen, and he will just fly to another place in the universe. With his own physique, he can survive, even if he falls into a vacuum, the center of the earth, or even the surface of the sun, as long as he is not thrown into the core of the sun. But the question is, when can I come back? What a troublemaker. Lao Wang was helpless, but fortunately I had a backup plan. He didn't even need to say anything. At the moment, when the rainbow bridge was destroyed, the crimson magic belt stretched out from his waist. The silk ribbon, which was less than 2 meters long, stretched to thousands of meters in an instant. One end was tied to Lao Wang's waist, and the other end broke through the suction of energy turbulence and wormhole collapse, and tied the rainbow bridge. Heimdall, come here. Lao Wang shouted, and threw out the cloud-probing whip. The key whip tied up Heimdall's wrist that was not holding the sword. Hong, push harder. Upon hearing the master's order, the crimson magic belt immediately shrank. Seeing the rainbow bridge getting closer and closer, Lao Wang finally breathed a sigh of relief. This matter. Odin, really don't blame me. Heimdall breathed a sigh of relief, and Odin, who was about to open his eyes, also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there is no need to wake up early and shorten their lives, and Thor and Loki are also saved. As for the rainbow bridge, I think I threw the cosmic cube to Midgard that year. Loki, we are safe. Thor looked down at his brother. Suddenly his face changed drastically. Loki, let go. Chapter 303 Odin's Treasury, Part 1. The wormhole was getting closer, and the rainbow bridge was getting farther away. Loki felt a little regretful, and all the things in the past flashed through his mind. When they were young, Odin held his and Thor's hands, and said that you were both born kings. He said that one day he would be old, and one of you would be crowned king. The whole of Asgard would echo your names at that moment, and the whole universe would cheer, be shocked or frustrated for the new king of Asgard, and you would rule the world with wisdom and power. Loki remembered Thor's reaction at that time very clearly. He said that he would definitely use absolute power to scare all enemies, just like his father did when he was young, and he chose wisdom. Has it been since then that Thor and I have been hostile? Loki didn't know. At that time, he thought he understood what Odin meant. Now he knows the truth. From the beginning, you planned to make Thor the king of Asgard and me the king of Jotunheim. The kings of the two worlds are brothers, and the two worlds will achieve eternal peace. Odin, you are old. How can you be so naive? From the moment you picked me up, you determined my fate, and used me as a pawn to rule Jotunheim. Did you ask me if I was willing? I don't want Jotunheim, but Asgard. Everything is over. Then, let it end like this. The family relationship between us should also be broken from this moment. Broken. Loki closed his eyes. A tear passed from the corner of Thor's eye. Is that it? Can't I even save my brother? A huge force dragged him back to the rainbow bridge. Thor suddenly thought of something, and hurriedly grabbed Heimdall's shoulder. Heimdall. Come on, see where he went? I don't believe he will die. He has been the only one who teased me since I was a child. He is smarter than me and has more tricks than me. Heimdall hurriedly stared at the void abyss under his feet. Countless wormholes appeared in the golden pupils, and Loki went farther and farther, and then disappeared. Suddenly, his eyes stung, and golden blood flowed out. Heimdall. Tony was very nervous. Would Heimdall be blind? At least thousands of wormholes collapsed at the same time, and I can't see anything. Heimdall sighed. He may be torn into pieces, or he may fall into a corner of the universe. The universe is so big that even he can't see it all. Even with the power of the rainbow bridge and the sword, the range he can see is very limited, and compared with the vast universe, it is not worth mentioning. The collapsed wormholes became unstable, and the transmission was disturbed. Loki may appear anywhere in the universe. Maybe he will return to Asgard tomorrow, or he may never come back. The possibility of death is very high. Another tear passed from the corner of Odin's eyes. Sensing the emotional fluctuations of the father of the gods, Lao Wang sighed. Is this the inertia of the timeline? The rainbow bridge was broken after all, and Loki fell down. I don't know where he went, or even if he died. Will he meet Thanos again? Will he attack the Earth with the Mind Scepter and the Chitter Army? It's hard to say. The plot is completely broken, and Odin hasn't woken up yet. What on earth is that old man thinking? The most important thing is, the rainbow bridge is broken. How the hell can I go back to Earth? Old Wang was still sighing, and Thor was already moved to tears. The king is a good man. Loki treated him so well, but he was still sad for Loki. He is worthy of being my brother, Thor. Loki will not die, king. Thor came over and patted old Wang on the shoulder, saying earnestly, don't be sad. You see, I'm not sad. There are no tears in Asgard, and death is the beginning of the journey to the other end. Even if Loki dies, he will live well in another world. Look at it more openly, old Wang. I see faster than you. What the hell does Loki's death have to do with me? Am I sad about this? Am I sad? Thor, your eyesight is not good, right? Such a big commotion would have alarmed the entire Asgard. Frigga had to guard Odin, and couldn't go anywhere. Sif and the kingdom's high-ranking officials ran over it the first time and were shocked. The rainbow bridge was broken. They looked at Heimdall, and then at Thor. The rainbow bridge had existed for who knows how many tens of thousands of years, and they had walked on it countless times. When they were still naughty children, who didn't secretly smash the rainbow bridge to play, the adults didn't care. Anyway, they couldn't smash it. Now it's broken. The father of the gods is still sleeping, and the queen of the gods Frigga is guarding by the bed. The most powerful people in the whole Asgard are Heimdall and Thor. One has the sword that controls the rainbow bridge, and the other has the Thor's hammer made of the remains of a star, and both have the ability to break the rainbow bridge. So, who of you did it? Wang. Director, what happened? Sif was a little curious. Why did the rainbow bridge break? Where did Loki go? Loki broke it with the eternal spear. Old Wang pointed to the bloody eternal spear in Thor's hand, and presented facts and reason. Sif was stunned. Loki can break the rainbow bridge. Why do I not believe this? Thor nodded sadly and embarrassedly. I didn't discipline him strictly enough. Heimdall pretended not to hear. By the way, the Queen of Gods wants to see you. Sif said. Frigga wants to see me? Could it be that Odin wants to see me? The old king rolled his eyes, weighed the pros and cons, and followed Sif to Odin's bedroom. The closer to the bedroom, the stronger Odin's power. Probably for the sake of sleep quality, Odin didn't stare at the old king all the time, and there was no pressure. Of course, the husband's sleeping posture should not be seen by outsiders, let alone a dangerous person like the immortal Iron Fist. Frigga went out to greet him in person, and then took the old king to the side hall. Thank you for your help, the immortal Iron Fist from Midgard. Frigga was gentle and generous, with outstanding temperament, beautiful, and nice to speak, which made the old king very comfortable. He smiled and saluted. We prefer the name of Earth. Earth and Asgard are both part of the 9 realms, and we should help each other. I should do this. Frigga looked at Lao Wang carefully, until he blushed and felt embarrassed, then said apologetically, the rainbow bridge is destroyed, but don't worry. When Odin wakes up, he will send you back to Earth. Asgardians will repay their kindness. Is there anything you want? Lao Wang wanted to say just give it to me, if I want it. How about the eternal spear? But when he thought that it might force Odin to wake up early and then beat him up, he decided to forget it. He straightened his back and said angrily, Queen of Gods, do you look down on me? I do all this for the peace and stability of the universe, without asking for anything in return. Frigga's mouth twitched. Don't I know your little tricks? If there wasn't a layer of time and space fog on you that even I couldn't see through, and if Odin acquiesced, would I be so polite to you? The rainbow bridge is broken, and 90% of the responsibility is on you. The most important thing is, you actually, she continued to persuade with a smile. How about this? Odin has a treasure house, which contains many rare treasures in the entire universe. You can pick one. Just pick one. Lao Wang's eyes lit up. Frigga, aren't you Chinese always modest and polite? Why don't you continue to be polite? Just now you had an expression of I don't want anything, and now you hear that there are treasures to take. So this is it? She continued to maintain a gentle and generous smile. You Easterners have a saying, artifacts choose their masters, and those with virtue will take them. Only with the recognition of the artifacts can you take them away. Lao Wang understood. It turns out that it's not casual. Odin is really stingy. Frigga clapped her hands, and Heimdall walked in. Please follow me, Heimdall said. Lao Wang hurriedly said goodbye, and followed Heimdall to Odin's treasure house. Although Sif also wanted to follow, she was stopped by Frigga. Seeing the old king leave, Frigga whispered, Sif, I have watched you grow up, since you were a child, and I can't hide your thoughts from you. Sif pursed her lips. She had no parents, since she was a child, and her only childhood memory was her brother Heimdall. She was Thor and Loki's childhood playmate, and she spent more time in the palace than outside. She had long regarded Odin as her father and Frigga as her mother. When Frigga asked this, she didn't know what to say. Give up. Frigga touched Sif's face. Thor is the man destined for you, and I hope you live happily. Sif was full of bitterness. Thor treats me as a brother. How can the two of us be happy? Odin's treasury is not in the palace. It is suspended somewhere outside the palace, protected by dozens of legendary magics. If no one leads the way, even the old king can't get in. The golden gate opened, and the old king's eyes were instantly attracted. Chapter 304 Infinity Gauntlet, Part 2. Lao Wang thought he had seen the world. He had seen at least 800 artifacts. It was just legendary equipment from World of Warcraft. Keylethas had more than 10. Any famous Burning Legion officer, not to mention Archimonde and Kil'jaeden, even the Erida twins and Manareth, had a few. Lao Wang had visited the Sunstrid Vault of the High Elves, the Magic Vault of Dalaran, and even looted Archimonde and Kil'jaeden. But he had to admit, quality doesn't count. In terms of quantity, no one and no place can compare to Odin's vault. A place larger than a bird's nest was filled with treasures. There were hanging rings everywhere, and they were not even qualified to be classified. The hall was piled up like a small mountain. On the towering stone pillars were artifacts worth collecting. The worst were at the level of Loki's small dagger. There were more than 100 pieces. With so many artifacts, even Kamataj and the New York Temple could not compare. It would be great if we could pack them all up. Ahem. Feeling the unfriendly look in Lao Wang's eyes, Heimdall quickly reminded him, Odin's treasury is one of the most important places in Asgard. It is protected by magic laid by successive kings, and has the power of the entire Asgard. There are 1,000 guards guarding the treasury, and he spoke for 2 minutes, and his meaning was very clear. Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you dare to pay attention to these artifacts, the consequences will be very serious. Lao Wang smiled, and said that we will talk about this later. Let's take one today. The artifact is here, and it won't run away. What's the difference between taking it early and late? Lao Wang took a step, and walked past one artifact after another, and came directly to a brazier. Eternal fire. Lao Wang's eyes lit up. There are not many high-level artifacts in the universe. The icebox is one, and the eternal fire is another. This thing is actually a ball of fire that will never go out, and it is related to Muspelheim, one of the 9 realms. It is said that it is the origin of Muspelheim, born at the beginning of the universe, and has the opposite power of the icebox. The eternal fire was originally the treasure of the fire giant Surtur, the lord of Muspelheim. Surtur, who possesses the eternal fire, is a father-level existence as powerful as Odin. He has the ability to destroy stars. He is a participant in the Ragnarok prophecy of the 9 realms and the final destroyer. Asgard and even the entire 9 realms will be completely destroyed under Surtur's doomsday sword, and then move towards a new life. It sounds awesome. In fact, it is awesome. This thing is not only in Muspelheim, but also in World of Warcraft. It is the highest level condensation of fire element energy, at the same level as eternal water, eternal earth, and eternal life. It is the favorite of alchemy masters. Even in Azeroth, where elements are active, the eternal fire is a very rare good thing, and it is hard to find. There is such a big bull in front of me. Moreover, this thing has an inexplicable connection with Muspelheim, just like symbiosis. As long as Muspelheim is still there, it can continuously absorb the flame energy of Muspelheim and always remain the same size. It is indeed a rare good thing. There are so many artifacts in the whole treasure house, and this is definitely the most precious one. This is it. Lao Wang reached out to take it. The next moment, more than a dozen layers of barriers appeared, isolating Lao Wang's hand from the outside. Lao Wang's face was not very good. Didn't we agree that the virtuous will occupy it? Why are you so blatantly not letting me touch it? Damn, I saved Asgard, your son, your generals, your intended daughter-in-law, and several years of your life, and you won't let me take the eternal fire? Do you have to be so stingy? Lao Wang snorted and walked to a round box. This is an ancient metal box with mysterious runes engraved on the surface. It has nothing to do with the runes of Asgard. This is an ancient rune unique to Kamatage. The box opened, and a football-sized gem appeared in front of him. Agamotto's orb. The first generation supreme sorcerer Agamotto is a more powerful figure than Odin. He is the son of the ancient god Osset. Together with two other more powerful magic entities, they form the Vishanti Trinity god, which is above the single universe. All treasures related to him are not simple. The Time Stone, one of the Infinity Stones, fell into Agamotto's hands a long time ago. In order to facilitate use, Agamotto specially made a divine artifact with the Time Stone inlaid, which is the famous Eye of Agamotto. Agamotto is called the All-Seeing Eye, of course. It cannot have only one eye. Agamotto's orb is another one. This artifact can not only break magic, but also has abilities similar to the Eye of Agamotto, and its value is not inferior to the levitation cloak at all. No one knows why this thing fell into Odin's hands. When Odin was young, it was said that he had an affair with Agamotto. Could it be that Agamotto gave it to him? It's useless for Lao Wang to take the magician's artifact. But if he gives it to Ancient One, maybe he can get something more valuable in exchange. This is the Agamotto orb. In addition to its practical value, it should also have considerable collection value, right? Lao Wang reached out to take it. He was once again blocked by more than a dozen layers of barriers. Lao Wang's face was not very good. Odin's treasury is indeed very large, with many treasures, but most of them are fake and useless. The number of artifacts is limited, no more than 1,000, and most of them are of average quality. There are only a few pieces with the same value as Thor's hammer. Odin, you won't give me any of them, right? He turned around and finally locked his eyes on a certain place. A golden glove suddenly appeared in front of him. Is this thing the legendary Infinity Gauntlet? The Infinity Stones are condensed from the essence of the Big Bang, and contain part of the original energy of this universe. Naturally, it is not something that ordinary people can master. At least one must be at the level of an Earth god, that is, Thor, Loki, and the Hulk, to touch it directly without dying. Only those at the sub-father level can use more than one Infinity Stone at the same time. But the problem is, the power of any two Infinity Stones will cancel each other out. To use multiple Infinity Stones at the same time, special props are needed, and the Infinity Gauntlet is one of them. This thing itself is a divine weapon, and only a divine weapon can carry the energy of 6 Infinity Stones at the same time. Although its value is not as high as the Eternal Flame and the Orb of Agamotto, it is also considered to be a relatively high one among ordinary divine weapons, and its value is second only to Thor's hammer. Of course, it is different from the one that Thanos later forced the dwarves to make. This glove is for the right hand. As for why, it is probably related to habit. What's more interesting is that there are 6 sparkling gems inlaid on the glove. It turns out that Odin also wants to collect all 6 gems. Fake. Heimdall said in a muffled voice, the father of the gods once thought about collecting all the infinite gems, but he gave up. Power is not everything. Kindness and wisdom are the most powerful power. Nonsense. Your words are grammatically ill. Okay, power itself is the most powerful power. Lao Wang was too lazy to defend himself, and reached out to pick up the Infinity Gauntlet. This is it. This time there was no barrier blocking it. It may be because Odin had no interest in collecting the Infinity Gems for a long time, or maybe he knew that he could not collect them all, so he lost interest in the Infinity Gauntlet. It may also be because he sensed Lao Wang's anger and did not want to make things too awkward. Anyway, this thing is useless except for mobilizing the energy of the Infinity Gems. At least for Odin's level, it is really useless. Seeing that Lao Wang had chosen it, Heimdall said, come with me, I'll find you a place to live. A place to live? Do you really want me to live here until Odin wakes up? I'm not worried about anything. Aren't you afraid? Heimdall, please do me a favor. After putting the infinity gems into the Heart of Azeroth, Lao Wang smiled slightly. How about sending me home? Chapter 305, Fist of the Heavens, Friend of the Wanderer, Part 1. Send you home? Heimdall was unwilling. Frigga clearly didn't want to let you go. She wanted to wait for Odin to wake up before dealing with you. Killing was impossible, but suffering was necessary. Otherwise people would think that Asgard was afraid of Midgard. He was about to object. Suddenly, he heard Lao Wang say, there are still many things on Earth waiting for me to deal with. The Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One is waiting for me. If she can't see him, she will be anxious. She is a person with a bad temper. When she is anxious, she gets angry, and when she gets angry, she wants to vent her anger. You know. Heimdall was choked back when he was about to speak. I really don't understand. He quickly called Odin in his heart, but there was no response. Odin was probably really angry this time. Although he can see and hear, it will eventually affect Odin's sleep. Poor sleep quality can easily lead to sudden death. One more day is one more day. Heimdall was also helpless. He thought for a moment and said, I must report to the queen before I can decide. The old king nodded with a smile. Please make a decision as soon as possible. Otherwise I can only ask the Supreme Sorcerer for help. By the way, where does Sif live? I want to talk to her. We have a lot to talk about. Heimdall had a blank expression on his face, but his soul was fluctuating abnormally. He looked at the old king with unkind eyes. He directly communicated with Frigga through telepathy. After almost a minute, he said, the Queen of Gods has agreed to your request. Odin's treasury does not allow spells, so come with me. The two came to the end of the Rainbow Bridge. The old king looked at the void storm under his feet and said half seriously and half jokingly, you don't want to push me down. I do want to, but Frigga won't let me. Heimdall said indifferently, this is the weakest place in time and space. I'm still very weak and my divine power is not enough. Even if I try my best, I can only send you away here. The old king smiled and handed over 3 crystal bottles. Thank you. One is for you, and the other 2 are for the Queen of Gods and Sif. Don't hit a smiling person, and what's more, even in Asgard, it is a precious gift. Heimdall wanted to refuse, but he soon heard Frigga's voice transmission, and after struggling for a few seconds, he took it. Stand still, don't move. He held the sword with both hands. 2 golden lights emanated from his pupils and shot into the void storm under his feet. It took 2 full minutes for Heimdall to activate the sword. In a burst of golden light, the old king disappeared. With his eyes brightened, Lao Wang returned to the battlefield. Wang, you're back. Sky, who had been busy, spotted Lao Wang the first time and flew over. Seeing that Lao Wang was not missing any parts, she was relieved. She was curious and couldn't help asking, Wang, what is Asgard like? Not bad. I'll tell you slowly later. Lao Wang rubbed Sky's blonde hair and asked, what's the situation? Looking around, scorched earth and frostbite everywhere. All the frost giants have disappeared without a drop of blood. A group of shield agents and local military are busy cordoning off the scene. Technicians with instruments are detecting everywhere. From their expressions, you can tell that they have gained a lot. Mental scan, none of the superheroes left, including Dr. Banner who has returned to human form. Thor awakened, destroyed the destroyer, and manipulated electricity to kill almost half of the frost giants. Sky said, we killed the remaining half, and Dr. Banner and Robbie made the greatest contributions. The old king nodded, where are the bodies? Sky said, we took away 80% of the frost giant bodies, because we had prepared in advance. Most of the remaining 20% were taken away by SHIELD and the military, and the iron soldiers sent by each took away a few. But most of them were destroyed, and there were less than 1,000 intact ones. The old king was very satisfied. It was already very good, beyond expectations. Where is the destroyer? That was the most important thing, more precious than 10,000 frost giant bodies. It has been transported back to the Azeroth laboratory. Sky was a little puzzled. Fitz is researching it. He said that the destroyer uses a material that does not exist on Earth. A very special metal that can only be studied and utilized based on the destroyer, and there is no way to synthesize it artificially. Give up the research. It doesn't make much sense. That is a god level armor. Even if Tony is allowed to study it, he won't be able to do anything in less than 10 years. Lao Wang smiled. Since the war is over, there is no need for us to stay here. Let's go home. Director Wang. Carlson's voice rang in his ears, and Lao Wang opened the door and disappeared. You ran so fast. Carlson sighed, picked up his phone and dialed. Sir, Director Wang is gone. Yes, the destroyer and those corpses will definitely not be brought back. When has Director Wang ever vomited out what he ate? Sky said that this war was mainly contributed by the God level bureau, so of course it should take the lion's share. Okay, I understand. After hanging up the phone, Carlson sighed again. They are all directors. Why is the gap so big? Fury, you are not strong enough. The subsequent impact will naturally be handled by SHIELD, the Pentagon, and the Ministry of Defense. The duty of the SHIELD is to take the initiative, to attack and extend the battlefield beyond the Earth. Lao Wang has done a good job. He has already attacked Asgard alone. What else can he do? Lao Wang felt at ease. After taking most of the spoils, he returned to the laboratory and found Fitz as soon as possible. Except for a little bit of scraps left, most of the remains of the destroyer were collected in the Heart of Azeroth and thrown together with the cold box, Loki's artifact dagger, and Laufey's body. Maybe it's not enough. Lao Wang thought about it, went to the underground cold storage, and collected most of the bodies of the frost giants and frost beasts in Azeroth, leaving only a small parts for a search. Then a ray of spirit entered the Heart of Azeroth. From under the skirt to the front, looking at the extremely beautiful Azeroth lady, Lao Wang smiled and said, I want to exchange for the Fist of Raden, the shield of the Supreme Guardian and the Wanderer's Companion. Not enough. The lady blinked her beautiful eyes and shook her head. These things combined are not enough to exchange for the Fist of Raden. Lao Wang was slightly stunned. Then he sneered. Sure enough. Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Warrior, Mage, Rogue, Paladin, Priest, Druid, Shaman, Hunter, Warlock, Monk. 12 professions, 36 artifacts. There are different grades. The worst ones are made by mortals, at most demigods have passed through, and the strongest ones are even related to the Pantheon and the Dark Titan Sargeras. The Fist of Raden, the artifact of the Great Guardian Ram. It is related to Amanthal, the leader of the Titan Pantheon and the father of the gods. Amanthal gave this artifact to the Great Guardian Ram, giving it the ability to control earth, fire, water, wind, and especially storms. Great Guardian Ra used it to inject life into the Titan creations Mogu, and used it to fight the Dark Emperor for many years. Titan products must be top-notch. Amanthal is the true father of the gods. The living planet life is far superior to Ego, who has only lived for millions of years. Starbursts are nothing. Being given by him to Great Guardian Ra, the Fist of Raden is a good artifact even in Amanthal's eyes. In terms of quality alone, it is far superior to the Frost Box. It is second only to the 5 creation artifacts, the Shield of Agrama, the Tears of Elune, the Tidestone of Gul'Ganath, the Hammer of Khazgarath, and the Eye of Amanthal. It is only 2 or 3 levels lower than the Heart of Azeroth. The value is naturally far beyond that of ordinary artifacts. Although the Fist of Raden is a shaman artifact, it is not useless for monks who can control earth, fire, water, and wind. It is even better than another artifact. There is no way to exchange it. Lao Wang even suspected that, if he really wanted to exchange for the Fist of Leden, he would have to collect the 3 high-level artifacts, the Icebox, the Eternal Fire, and the Eternal Spear. Exchange for the Fist of the Heavens and the Wanderer's Friend. Lao Wang lowered his requirements. The spherical space is swelled with blood, and the 7th level space-time channel opened and closed immediately in less than 2 seconds. A pair of golden boxing gloves and a cane appeared in front of him. Chapter 306. If the Earth is not enough, let's start with the universe. Part 2. Lao Wang first picked up the Fist of the Heavens. Feeling the surging wind energy in it, the history of this artifact emerged in his mind. Thousands of years ago, the famous Tulvi blacksmith Almud forged a gorgeous fist blade. But he was not satisfied with this work, and tried to inject the essence of Lord of the Wind element Alakir into this weapon. Almud's actions angered Alakir. In order to punish the arrogant blacksmith, He injected a large amount of the original anger of the wind element into the fist blade. When Almut wanted to release the power in the weapon, a huge vortex was triggered, swallowing him and his city together, and the fist blade was blown away by the wind to an unknown place. In other words, this fist blade has the power to destroy the city. When human power is limited, the power of nature is the greatest. And this fist blade has the power of nature. Alaki, Lao Wang whispered softly, with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. There are 4 elemental lords in World of Warcraft. Therazane, Lord of Earth, Ragnaros, Lord of Fire, Niptulan, Lord of Water, and Alaki, Lord of Wind. As early as the original Azeroth, before any life was born on the original planet, the sleeping Titan soul absorbed most of the 5th element soul energy, resulting in only 4 elemental energies on the surface of the planet: Earth, Fire, Water, and Wind. In the infinitely raging elemental energy, endless elemental creatures were born. The 4 elemental lords are the leaders of the elemental creatures. It can even be said that they are originally one with the Titan soul and are part of the Titan Azeroth. After Azeroth grows up, they will build her body and become her power. The 4 elemental lords represent part of the power of the Titans. They are almost as old as the planet itself, with a long life of billions of years. They are the supreme existence in the entire Azeroth, second only to the Titan soul, at the peak of the demigod level, as noble and powerful as the Titan Guardian and the 5 Dragon Kings, above the gods of the wilderness. Such existence is naturally extraordinary. They have fought each other for countless billions of years, causing countless floods, volcanic eruptions, crustal movements, island sinking, destroying countless continental shelves, and changing the topography of the entire planet countless times. Alakir is the most cunning and weakest one among them. But no matter how weak he is also at the top demigod level. In order to deal with it, the Titan camp sent 3 guardians: Great Guardian Lei, Storm Guardian Thorin Mu, and Winter Guardian Hodir. Although the Fist of the Heavens has only been injected with a part of Alakir's original essence, it is still at the artifact level, and its ability to manipulate storms is not necessarily worse than Thor's hammer. The human world faces the threat of typhoons every year, and it is unknown how many people will die, and how much property damage will be caused. As long as it is willing, the Fist of the Heavens can cause typhoons around the world at any time, which is 10 times more terrible than the most violent typhoons in history. It can also calm any storm on the earth, blow away the haze, and make the sandstorm disappear, so that the world will return to peace. Old friend, not bad. Lao Wang put on the fist blade with ease. The furious wind whistled in his ears, as if to destroy the wearer and the whole world. Each artifact has its own temperament, and it is not easy to subdue it. The Fist of the Heavens contains the will of Alakir and the soul of Ilmater. It is a spiritual artifact in itself. The difficulty of subduing it is no less than that of Thor's hammer. The most direct way is to release the power of the soul. Boom. The soul as powerful as the mountains and seas pressed towards the Fist of the Heavens. A roar suddenly sounded in the Fist of the Heavens. The sky was surging with wind and clouds. The wind was howling, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and lightning was swimming in the clouds. It was dark as far as the naked eye could see. Daytime was like night. In the thick and dense whirlwind, Alakir appeared. With a body of hundreds of meters, it seemed as if a god had descended to the earth. It was originally the god of wind in Azeroth. Wild wind, listen to my command. With the thunderous voice, the will of the wind god dominated the entire sky. The Azeroth laboratory, which covers an area of more than 100,000 square meters, was facing destruction at this moment, and was about to be destroyed. Everyone was screaming, and Sky flew into the air. Just as he was about to use shockwaves to fight the storm, he suddenly heard Lao Wang's voice. Alakir, surrender to me. In the cold voice, the storm spirit soared into the sky, carrying the fury of wind and lightning, and streaking through the sky. Who dares to challenge the supreme wind god? Alakir pulled out a sword from the storm, a huge sword composed of wind and lightning, slashed at the storm spirit. The storm spirit raised his arms. The Fist of the Heavens and the storm sword clashed. At this moment, the world lost its color. The 2 masters of the storm flew to the sky and moved the battlefield 10,000 meters above. 2 minutes passed. The clouds dispersed, the wind subsided, the lightning disappeared, and the storm spirit floated down, merged into the old king's body. Lowering his head, the Fist of the Heavens trembled slightly, emitting a flattering hum. Alak's will was completely destroyed, and only the remnant soul of Almater remained in the fist blade. After seeing the ability of the storm spirit to dominate the storm, he could only choose to surrender, a surrender from the soul level. The old king smiled slightly. The Fist of the Heavens is the artifact of the monk Windwalker. But even if the most outstanding monk in World of Warcraft gets this artifact, it will take a long time to get its recognition, and it is still unknown whether it can exert its full power. The old king is different. As soon as he gets the Fist of the Heavens, he can exert its full power. If I confront Thor head on now, the storm spirit and his fist blade alone are probably enough, right? The old king put away the Fist of the Heavens and picked up the Wanderer's Companion. Fuzan Wanderer's Companion, a brewmaster artifact. Unlike the Fist of the Heavens, it has nothing to do with the elemental lords, but with the Titan Guardians. In ancient times, the Titan Guardian Freya traveled around the world to spread life. One of the first seeds she planted was buried in Pandaria. This seed grew into the first tree in Pandaria, Fuzan, and over the long years, it gave rise to the lush forests of the entire continent and all plants, making it the true ancestor of plants and life. Before Freya set out to sow life in other parts of Azeroth, she made a branch of Fuzan into a travel cane. Over the long years, it was integrated with the natural life force that Freya inherited from the Titan Leona. Finally, Freya gave the cane to the demigod of the wilds, one of the supreme gods of Pandaria, and the wisest king Lanchalan, who then gave the cane to a witty Hozan, the friend of the last Pandaran emperor Sheoheo, the eternal king of the Hozan, the Monkey King. It was with the help of this cane that the Monkey King and Sheoheo sealed the six evils together and created a long-term peace in Pandaria. This cane is roughly the same level as the Fist of the Heavens, and it is also Lao Wang's favorite weapon. It can be used as a hiking stick when climbing mountains, as a sea stabilizing needle when going to the sea, as a luggage carrier when traveling, as a barbecue grill, and as a tent pole. It has many uses. Holding the cane in one hand and feeling the familiar power, Lao Wang smiled slightly. This cane itself has no soul, but over the long years, it has gradually nurtured spirituality, and because it has always followed Freya, Yulong and the Monkey King, its spirituality is even more than that of the Fist of the Heavens, and its quality is better. Roughly speaking, as the King of Frost, with divine power no less than that of Thor, the god of thunder, Lolth's body is worth about 100 grams of Azeroth's blood, which is higher than the whole body of the immortal dragon that has been buried underground for who knows how many years. Loki's dagger is also a good low-level artifact, extremely sharp, worth about 50 grams. The body of a frost giant weighs about 1 to 10 milligrams, and the body of a frost behemoth weighs at least 5 grams. The icebox is the most expensive, worth at least 1000 grams of blood of Azeroth, or even more. The Fist of the Heavens has 2 fist blades, and the total value is slightly lower than that of the Wanderer's Companion. The value of the 2 monk artifacts is at least more than 600 grams of blood of Azeroth. In other words, low-level artifacts are worth at least 10 grams of blood of Azeroth, mid-level artifacts are worth at least 100 grams of blood of Azeroth, and higher-level artifacts are worth at least 1000 grams of blood of Azeroth. The specific amount depends on the size and effect. For example, Loki's dagger is made of the same material as Thor's hammer, but because it is smaller and lighter, and has no other effects except being sharp, its value is likely to be less than 1/10 of Thor's hammer. The Fist of the Heavens and the Wanderer's Friend are only considered to be in the lower middle tier among all the professional artifacts. Among all the professional artifacts, the monk's artifacts are almost at the bottom, far inferior to those of the warlock, shaman, priest, and even druid and paladin. The best ones are related to the titans and the true gods, the slightly worse ones are related to more than one demigod, the worse ones are related to a demigod, the old god, the Naru, and the giants of the Burning Legion. The worst ones are only related to mortals. The Fist of the Heavens and the Wanderer's Friend can only be considered the 3rd tier. The Fist of Raden belongs to the 1st tier. Its value. According to this rule, at least 100 kilograms of Azeroth's blood is needed, or even 1 ton. The value of 10 kilograms of Azeroth's blood is equivalent to 10,000 tons of vibranium in Wakanda, about 100 trillion US dollars, and more than the gross national product of all countries in the world. What is the concept of 1 ton of Azeroth's blood? How powerful is the true power of the Fist of Raden? And it is just the artifact of the Titan Guardian. Then what is the value of those creation artifacts named after the Titans? What is the value of the artifacts of the 5 Dragon Kings of the Titans, such as the Hourglass of Time that can travel freely in the infinite timeline, and the Focusing Rainbow that can mobilize all the arcane energy in the whole Azeroth? The Demon Soul that gathers part of the power of the 5 Dragon Kings? The legendary Staff of Aetish Guardian, which inherits the generations of Guardians of Tirisfal? What is the value of the star-blasting giant sword in Sargeras's hand? It's simply unimaginable. If you want to exchange it, the wealth of the earth is not enough, and the wealth of the 9 realms is not enough. You have to use the entire universe. Lao Wang sighed faintly, and the road ahead is long and arduous. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 307, a new chapter, Part 1. After being busy for so long, Lao Wang finally had time to study the Infinity Gauntlet. Unlike ordinary gloves, the Infinity Stone is very large, half a meter tall when erected. It can only be said that it is worthy of being a divine artifact made by dwarves. So short. When the dwarf King Etri first made it, he didn't want to keep it for himself, right? His physique seemed to be suitable. But Lao Wang soon found out that it was not that simple. When he put his hand in, the glove actually shrank automatically and became a perfect fit. The size is as I wish. Lao Wang was not surprised. Even humans can enlarge and reduce parts, not to mention divine artifacts. Levitation cloaks and crimson magic belts can all be done. There is no reason why the Infinity Gauntlet can't do it. There are 6 grooves on the gauntlet, each of which represents an Infinity Stone. Time, space, power, reality, soul, mind. If it is filled with gems, you only need to snap your fingers to make a wish to accomplish anything. Destroy half of the creatures in the universe, travel freely in time and space, change your gender or race or size, and even let the entire universe return to chaos, experience a second Big Bang, and create a brand new world as you wish. The premise is that you must have a strong enough soul and body to withstand the power of 6 Infinity Stones. At this moment, 6 gems are embedded in it. Although they are not Infinity Stones, they can be embedded in the Infinity Gauntlet as an exhibit, and their value will not be too low. They are definitely legendary items. Each one is worth at least 1 gram of Azeroth blood. It's not bad to keep it to scare people. Lao Wang thought about it, but finally didn't dig out the gems. The Infinity Gauntlet is most likely made of the same material as Thor's hammer. Even if no gems are embedded, it is also a divine artifact level, with a high value, and can be used. It is different from the nano imitation of Iron Man in Avengers 4. The genuine Infinity Gauntlet is made of better material, and the dwarf craftsmanship has given it many additional abilities, such as being able to resist some energy attacks, such as being indestructible. At least it is not a problem to catch Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield with bare hands. The golden glitter is too eye-catching. I have to let Fitz get some paint. Lao Wang made up his mind. The Azeroth laboratory is more lively than ever before. Lao Wang not only took away his own people and most of the spoils, but also Miss Jane, who was good looking and well spoken, as well as Miss Jane's teacher, Professor Eric, and her friend, assistant, and student, Miss Daisy. These 3 are the most famous astronomers in the world. Lao Wang introduced them to Sky in person, and then saw Miss Jane glance at Daisy with a strange look in her eyes. Astronomer? This ignorant, vase-like, flat-chested girl who only knows how to go shopping, watch movies, eat out, and chase stars every day, and it is unknown whether she can handle her graduation project? Director Wang, please don't insult the word astronomer, okay? Humph, I'm an astronomer, an astronomer. Daisy was not willing to be outdone in front of the leader. However, as soon as she met Miss Jane's eyes, she instantly wilted. "Well, I'm an astronomer after all, and I'm a graduate student. At least, I can rank 100, 1000, 10,000 in the world, right? I believe this." Miss Jean held her forehead speechlessly. There are only so many people in the world who do astronomy, and there are probably not even 10,000 who can go to graduate school, right? Miss Daisy, you can only achieve so much, not even a little more. She raised her middle finger, then pinched the first joint with her index finger, thought about it, and moved it up again, leaving only a small part of the nail. "You saw the war a few days ago. Wormholes really exist, and they can be controlled by magic. Of course, technology can also be used if it develops to a certain level." Lao Wang snapped his fingers, and an orange portal appeared. On the other side of the door was the New Mexico battlefield that he had visited before. Miss Jane was curious and hurried forward to touch it. "Pa." Lao Wang slapped her hand and threw a frost giant corpse over. Just halfway through, the portal closed. The upper body of the corpse disappeared, and the incision was very sharp. Miss Jane was stunned. This is faster than cutting vegetables." She tried the corpse of a frost giant. It was very hard, and she couldn't cut it with a kitchen knife, and bullets couldn't penetrate it. It was actually cut open easily. Space magic is one of the most dangerous magics in the world. Few people can resist the power of space. You can't, and neither can I. Lao Wang warned, so don't mess around. Miss Jane nodded quickly, and kept it in mind. "You are astronomers, and are interested in wormholes. You should continue to study astronomy in the future, and pay attention to observing the spatial changes of the entire world, especially London." Lao Wang said, "There is a good dark matter and space astronomy laboratory in London. I will let Sky acquire it, and change it to Azeroth Astronomy Laboratory. You will continue your research there in the future." "Acquire the laboratory? I know that laboratory. It is one of the best astronomy laboratories in the whole UK. No, in the whole Europe. If you acquire it, it will cost at least £1 billion, right? Why London? Director Wang, you are so rich. Can I borrow some money? You know that my expenses are quite high recently. I don't even have a boyfriend. How about 10,000, 5,000 US dollars? I will pay it back." Miss Jane, Dr. Eric, and Miss Daisy had completely different reactions. Lao Wang smiled. "Miss Daisy, your salary will be more than you think. Enough for you." "Dr. Eric, London is a very special place. There is a strange substance hidden deep underground there." He turned to look at Jane. "Miss Jane, you can talk to Sky if you need anything." "Yeah." Miss Jane actually wanted to talk to Director Wang, but when she saw Sky's eyes and felt her heartbeat getting faster and faster, she instantly understood something, and her eyes dimmed. That's it. After opening the door to send the three astronomers away, Lao Wang looked at Sky and asked, "What is the current situation?" "The war in New Mexico has been suppressed. The Ministry of Defense claims that it is a large-scale military exercise," Sky said. "Military exercise? It's really a common trick." Lao Wang nodded. "Just suppress it. Humans are not ready to face aliens and myths." Sky continued, "The research on Kunlun spacecraft has achieved certain results. The information of SHIELD Sky Carrier has also been partially analyzed. Fitz is in charge of the design of the first generation of Sky Carriers, which belongs to our Sky Carriers." Lao Wang nodded again. "Fitz is very capable. In addition to the talents recruited from all over the world, including Stark Industries and SHIELD, and the researchers that Hammer Industries already has, there are more than 3,000 mathematicians, physicists, and chemists, and more than 50,000 mechanical engineering talents. The annual salary expenditure alone is as high as several billion US dollars. No matter how poor you are, you cannot be poor in scientists. Otherwise scientific and technological progress and human development will be restricted. The effect is very good. Fitz is a man with aspirations. The new generation of Sky Carriers he designed must be better than SHIELD's, not to mention the technology obtained from the Kunlun spacecraft. I believe it won't take long for the first generation of Sky Carriers to appear. The building framework of the Afterlife base and Kunlun base has been completed, and the Azeroth building has also been completed for more than half. Sky said. Now it is mainly the power system, communication system, fire protection system, interior decoration, and the purchase of various equipment. It will cost about $5 billion in total. This is still the first batch. According to your requirements, at least another $5 billion will be added later. Big projects cost money like water. The total investment for a 7nm chip production line is several $billion, not to mention such a large project. In order to ensure long-term university functions, the Schengen Bureau base and Azeroth building, including the current Azeroth laboratory, all use arc reactors, and palladium is not cheap. The investment in this area is as high as several hundred million, not to mention the Sky Carrier. The cost of a Sky Carrier will definitely not be less than 10 billion. As long as the Schengen Bureau is external, the demand for Sky Carriers far exceeds that of S.H.I.E.L.D., and one is definitely not enough. Maybe 10 are not enough. Lack of money? Lao Wang rubbed his eyebrows. No matter how much money you have, it's not enough. Sky still has some complaints about Lao Wang subsidizing the construction of the Schengen Bureau. This money, we saved it penny by penny. I will feel bad. Don't be so stingy. What's yours and mine? In the end, everything is ours. The entire Earth is ours. And of course the Schengen Bureau is ours too. No one can take it away. Why are you afraid of spending money? Lao Wang laughed, pinched his chin, and thought, the first war with aliens has aroused the vigilance of countries all over the world, and the arms industry has ushered in a new spring. Next year, the defense budgets of various countries will at least double, and the purchase of steel soldiers will also increase. There will be a large amount of income. In fact, during this period, he has received thousands of calls from hundreds of people from all over the world. They are all related to procurement. There are even requests to share technology. There are various temptations, some small moves, and some blatant requests. Lao Wang ignored them all. He has always been unyielding, and he has strong strength and power as a backing, so he is not afraid at all. Not too much. I got the news that the iron soldiers purchased by various countries are basically used for research. Our technology is not that advanced. Sky frowned slightly. I asked Fitz. He said that at most in 5 years, governments of various countries will be able to master most of the Iron Soldier's technology. Our benefits in this regard are very limited and will not exceed 100 billion in 5 years. They can research, so why can't we upgrade? With the upgrade, everyone will want something better, such as the one that can fly into the sky and fight. Lao Wang knocked on the table. Of course, we can't just count on this. It's time for World of Warcraft to be released. Chapter 308, World of Warcraft is released, Part 2. Quantum Laboratory. That's roughly the situation. Big eyes, bob haircut, black suit. What a capable and good girl. Miss Hope talked for half an hour before she looked at Lao Wang. Her eyes were even gentler than Miss Jane's, almost melting Lao Wang. Quantum brain is too difficult. It will take at least 3 to 5 years to fully realize it. We can only add some concepts of quantum computing to the supercomputer to improve the computing speed. How much? Well, about 10 to 100 times, compared with the most advanced supercomputer. I'm responsible for this. Fitz hesitated for 2 seconds, but decided to interrupt. The specific data will be known after it is completed. Dr. Pym and Dr. Banner mainly study theory, and I'm responsible for how to make a quantum computer. Of course, I'm just helping them. Theory is the most important. Actually, I'm just helping them. Banner rubbed his eyes. Quantum mechanics is not my major, and I have to help Dr. Simmons study super soldier serum. I can only come here twice a week, one day, and I have to share time with Hulk. No matter how he argued, Sky finally agreed to Hulk. After bargaining, he had to come out a few times a month. At least 5 times, maybe 7 or 8 times more. Although there will be no bleeding, it will hurt, it will be uncomfortable, and I will feel very unhappy and want to hit someone. I have already wasted 5 years, and now I can't use all my time for scientific research. My youth is wasted like this. What should I do? Banner scratched the wavy curls on his head. Feeling the gaze of his girlfriend, he sighed again. I have to accompany Betty shopping, watching movies, and eating. 48 hours a day is definitely not enough. I don't know if 72 hours is enough. I understand. Lao Wang nodded. Dr. Pime, Dr. Banner, Miss Hope, Fitz, and Ellie, Lucy and others. In addition to the talents recruited from major companies, SHIELD, and major prestigious universities with high salaries, the Quantum Laboratory has gathered more than 50 scientists, ranking among the top 5 in the world in terms of quantity and quality. With such a configuration, such a subject, and such knowledge, Dark God Book, it would be strange if there were no results. However, the quantum brain is still too difficult. If that thing can really be made, it is almost equivalent to creating a real soul, and it is a soul with extremely strong computing power, logical ability and other abilities. Similar to Vision and Ultron. Of course, it may be slightly worse, but not much worse. The difficulty of the quantum brain is far higher than the framework, brain mapping, and arc reactor. It is understandable that it takes time. 100 times. It should be barely enough. Lao Wang knocked on the table. I will give you 5 billion, and there is only one requirement, as soon as possible. The fastest supercomputer in the world currently costs about 500 million yuan, and the electricity consumption alone costs several million US dollars every year. Supercomputers are not just simple data that looks good as many people think, but actually have many uses. Everything in modern society is built on the basis of computers. Computing power is as important as creativity, atmospheric environment simulation, high-tech weapons research and development, basic mathematical research. All of these must rely on supercomputers for calculation and simulation. It itself is part of the comprehensive national strength. To create a large virtual world that can support a large number of souls and minds online at the same time, with a nearly real environment, so that humans cannot distinguish the difference by perception, the computing power required is beyond the reach of even the best supercomputers currently available. To develop such a computer, it is inseparable from the support of a large number of scientists and engineers. It is even more inseparable from the support of a large amount of funds. Spending money like water. Lao Wang shook his head. The world's best companies spend more than 20 billion on research and development every year, so this amount of money is nothing. It should be spent. Pime Technology has many experts in quantum mechanics and computers. We are willing to provide support and bear half of the cost. There is only one requirement. Miss Hope had obviously discussed it with Dr. Pime a long time ago and said, after the supercomputer is completed, the first one will be used for subsequent quantum mechanics research, mainly in the 4 aspects of quantum positioning, quantum channels, quantum shuttles and man suit upgrades. Wang, you know. Lao Wang waved his hand. He understood what the second generation WASP meant. I've said before that the research on quantum computers and quantum brains is mainly to help you rescue your mother. Lao Wang said, once the quantum computer is completed, the first one will be given to you. You can use it at will. Thank you. Hope and Pime looked at each other with joy on their faces. You guys can do your own things. Lao Wang left the quantum laboratory and came to the virtual laboratory. In the next period of time, he must devote all his energy to the development of World of Warcraft. This will take a long time. The memories in his mind cannot be used directly. He must also combine the online games he played in his previous life and make corresponding adaptations, balance the various professions and races, and set various parameters according to the existing virtual engine. All the preparations have been completed, and Lao Wang only needs to follow Sky's guidance. While Lao Wang was developing World of Warcraft, the outside world was turbulent. The appearance of Thor and Loki, the god of trickery, the storm that swept across New Mexico, and the invasion of the frost giants, all of this is telling the whole world, humans are not alone. The universe is too big, the galaxy is too big. There are more than hundreds of thousands and millions of intelligent creatures. In the vast universe, human beings can only be regarded as low-level intelligent life, and are still in the stage of surface civilization. The strong prey on the weak, and those who lag behind will be beaten. Faced with the advanced civilization of the universe that cannot be resisted, are humans ready for contact, or even war? The answer is no. The problem is that the operation of the universe is not subject to human will. No matter what humans think, what is coming will still come. At this time, leaders of countries around the world remember Director Wang's foresight. The establishment of the Schengen Bureau is very necessary. The international trend is bound to converge and build a community with a shared future for mankind. And now, under the threat of aliens, this process is accelerating. Although it is divided into nearly 200 sovereign countries and independent forces without sovereignty, it must be united in the entire universe. The United Nations is the only organization that can represent all mankind. And the Schengen Bureau is the sharpest spear of the United Nations. Countries are holding meetings one after another, and the United Nations is also holding meetings. There is no doubt, the power of the United Nations is growing invisibly, and the first allocation of the Schengen Bureau has finally arrived. As the only two major bases of the Schengen Bureau, the Afterlife base and the Kunlun base are located on the border of China and the other is located in China. They have received strong support from China. After all, they are closer. Once faced with the threat of aliens, they will be of greater help to China. Other countries have also negotiated with the United Nations, the Security Council, and Lao Wang to discuss the establishment of Schengen Bureau bases in their countries. A large number of scientific researchers, combatants, and management personnel have poured into the Schengen Bureau, and there are all kinds of people. Lao Wang accepts all these people with different purposes. Anyway, the Schengen Bureau is short of people. Whether they are British, French or Americans, as long as they come in, they are my people. The threat of aliens and the approach of war have promoted the development of science and technology to a certain extent. Although the whole world is still in a peaceful stage, and the war in New Mexico is blocked to the people, under the promotion of various governments, the global atmosphere is obviously much more tense than before. The orders for steel soldiers have increased sharply. In addition to governments, even the world's top billionaires have placed orders with Azeroth Industries through various channels to order steel soldiers for them. Once a war between cosmic civilizations breaks out, no amount of money can protect their lives. The extremely fast and defensive steel soldiers are their last resort. A large number of security projects began to be built, doomsday theories continued to grow, and some so-called underground shelters also popped up like mushrooms after rain. And at this time, World of Warcraft was finally released. Chapter 309 Who Changed the World, Part 1. After several months of development and debugging, the time has passed to the second half of 2010. It is nearly a year since Warcraft was launched. In this year, Lao Wang has opened nearly 100 virtual experience halls in succession, covering the 100 most economically developed cities in the world, and sold more than 10 million sets of virtual equipment. The initial investment cost has long been recovered, and now every day is pure profit. With the increase in production, the price of virtual equipment has gradually dropped. In addition, with the strong imitation capabilities of various parts of the world, especially a certain country in the East, many cheap imitation virtual equipment have appeared on the market. Although the technological content is a little worse, it is within the range that most netizens can afford. Unlike some large companies, Lao Wang is not interested in suing these so-called copycats. He doesn't have the time or the need. He waved his hand and either cooperated or acquired directly. Basically every week, Azeroth Group acquires one or two small companies, including arms companies, laboratories, heavy industries, basic industries, people's livelihood enterprises, and also technology companies. In modern society, almost no company is independent. Major companies share what they have, but some technologies must be mastered by themselves, otherwise it will be very troublesome if other companies run out of stock. With an investment of more than $10 billion, brilliant results have been achieved. Azeroth's social network company occupies more than half of the market share of virtual technology and has even been accused of monopoly by many people. The world's acceptance of virtual technology is increasing every day. Virtual technology has become a topic of discussion on the streets and after dinner. These days, if you don't send a virtual 3-piece set to college, your child will not be in a good mood. The price is becoming more and more affordable. The lowest end virtual helmet has dropped to less than $1,000. Even ordinary families in developing countries can afford it with a little effort. Don't let your children lose at the starting line. This is the truth in every country. Even old men and women in their 70s and 80s can see that virtual technology is the future. More than 700 colleges and universities have cooperated with Azeroth social network company to jointly develop designated virtual education platforms. 30 early pilots in China, the United States and the European Union have achieved very fruitful results. A large amount of data shows that virtual technology has a far greater effect on the development of the human brain than conventional education. It can significantly stimulate and activate the right brain. Even those Warcraft enthusiasts who play games just for the sake of playing games have significantly improved their computing ability, learning ability, logical reasoning ability, memory and other aspects. A joint study by 147 scientists from 38 laboratories around the world shows that virtual technology promotes the development of the brain. It promotes human evolution. In the 21st century, whoever masters virtual technology will master the future. And this future is in the hands of Lao Wang. He naturally attracts attention. Pressure from all sides forced Lao Wang to open up some less important technologies and only hold the core technology firmly in his hands. And it was under such circumstances that World of Warcraft was born. From Warcraft to World of Warcraft, it took nearly a year. After seeing the sensation caused by Warcraft, some old technology companies, such as Google, Intel, Microsoft, and Banana, have developed more profitable large-scale scenario online network games. In less than a year, more than 10 virtual games have been launched. Due to technical reasons, these virtual games are far inferior to Warcraft in terms of picture quality, sound effects and overall experience, but they are also very attractive to players who have had enough of Warcraft. All companies that seized the opportunity have seen their market value increase to varying degrees. But when World of Warcraft came out, the market value of almost all companies involved in virtual technology evaporated overnight. World of Warcraft is so good, far better than anyone expected. A higher experience than Warcraft, a huge and detailed map, a world structure that is almost as complete as the real world, a degree of freedom that is infinitely close to 100%, NPC IQs that are close to real people, and a fairly affordable price. In addition to the point card, there will be no promise of any mandatory charges, and a subtle connection with Warcraft. All of this has made other games, except World of Warcraft and Warcraft, fall into decline in an instant. What's even more terrifying is, the server of World of Warcraft can actually carry all players online at the same time. This is an unprecedented breakthrough. All players are in the same server, which increases the communication between people. Except for the different world structure, World of Warcraft is almost the same as the real world. This is incredible. Lao Wang doesn't even need to spend money on advertising. The word of mouth of players is the best advertisement. A large number of advertisements are pouring in, which is the real way to make money. People soon discovered that you can eat chicken steak in Goldshire, drink cold drinks in Undercity, eat barbecue in Blackrock Mountain, order suits or Chinese clothes at the tailor shop in Stormwind, and order any jewelry you want in Exoda. You can own a supercar and personal aircraft in American, ride a steel behemoth produced by Ironforge, and even grow hybrid rice in the Burning Plains and the Barrens. There is nothing you can't think of. All dreams will come true in the virtual world. This is the world in people's dreams. The development of virtual technology has promoted the rapid advancement of science and technology. The emergence of World of Warcraft has diluted the tense atmosphere of the whole world, which is also good for governments of various countries. More and more cooperation applications and advertising space rentals have brought a lot of cash flow to make Sky very busy. The gradually bulging wallet made her smile all day long, and Lao Wang was also better off. The capital flow of Azeroth social network company soon exceeded 10 billion, which was higher than the Azeroth industry. World of Warcraft is a complete world view, a brand new second world, but it is still too monotonous for 7 billion people on Earth. Everyone has his or her own story in his or her heart. Every nation and every country has countless epics that are worth singing and crying. Every story is worth listening to, and every epic is worth recording. Due to the limitations of recording methods and human and material resources, many good stories and many real histories are constantly disappearing in the demise of the parties involved, and the erosion of time. Virtual technology will record all of this, make history clear and real. Let the mirror of humanity always shine brightly. All of this can be used to create a virtual world. One branch after another was established in countries around the world, recruiting local people with ideals and ambitions to develop their own virtual worlds and record those things that are worth recording. The headquarters of Azeroth social network company is also continuing to develop new virtual worlds around World of Warcraft. Relatively simple casual games such as Hearthstone will soon be launched. Overwatch, Diablo, and StarCraft, which seem to have different worldviews, will also be launched soon. Then there is Earth Online, which is based on the real world, developed by everyone, absolutely open source and absolutely inclusive. All virtual games will be included in the same super large virtual world, in the form of parallel universes. Perhaps one day in the future, the fusion of different parallel universes will be realized. All the plots in novels and movies may appear. Brain mapping technology has liberated human thinking from imprisonment, allowing any idea to be presented realistically, any scientific speculation to be better verified, and even the review standards of the Nobel Prize will be improved a lot in a few years. Whether it is a 3-year-old child or a 90-year-old man, they can record their knowledge and conjectures in a very simple way. Virtual technology has changed the way people live and communicate, and has caused a new technological revolution. This is a future that people want. At this time, Lao Wang's focus is no longer on virtual technology. Fitz's research has achieved fruitful results. Chapter 310, Flying, Part 2. Azeroth Physical Engineering Laboratory. A device the size of a desktop computer was placed in front of Lao Wang. There were no cables or any extra modules. The cylindrical device looked extremely simple, with a kind of artistic beauty of simplicity. The whole body was as smooth as a mirror and as round as jade. It had nothing to do with technology. Lao Wang had some technical background in his 3 lives. He could understand even the most advanced high technology, but only on the surface. Everything in front of him seemed a bit beyond the scope. This thing that looked like a round stool. What on earth was it? This is a simplified version of the Kunlun spacecraft warp engine. Fitz explained quickly. We have done a detailed study of the warp engine. Due to the lack of equipment, knowledge and other aspects, we can only analyze less than 1/5, 1/10 of the surface technology. We use the surface technology to make this engine. Surface technology. In other words, it actually has nothing to do with the technology required by the warp engine, which is to compress space-time to rapidly bend the space-time before and after the object, and then make the object move at close to the speed of light. Lao Wang nodded, with an expression of I understand. Are you going to use it as the engine of the sky carrier? The so-called engine is actually the core part of the engine, so generally speaking, the engine refers to the engine. Although the thing in front of him looks different from the traditional engine, and is too small, it is actually an engine, and it is also the engine with the highest technological content at present. It is even better than those of the Shield Sky Carrier. No. Fitz said, the Sky Carrier is too big, and the weight is estimated to be around 30,000 tons. This engine is too small and it definitely can't carry it. At least 10 of this size are needed, and there can't be only 1, at least 3, and preferably more than 5. Then what is it used for? Lao Wang was curious. It is used to drive the first generation of the main fighter of the shield. Fitz coughed and looked at the large screen on the wall. Dun Huang, help me call up the design drawings of flying. Okay, Dr. Leo Fitz. A pleasant and ethereal voice sounded, and a projection of a beautiful woman wearing ancient oriental costumes appeared in front of him. Dun Huang is the 3rd quantum computer, which is more complete and faster than the previous 2. It is worth more than $5 billion. Even if the technical parts of the previous 2 are removed, the R&D cost and cost of the new technology alone will exceed $1 billion. It is about 1/10 of a Shield Sky Carrier and twice the size of the latest Quinjet. So far, only 3 quantum computers have been built. All 3 are in the Azeroth laboratory. The first one is mainly used for scientific research and is responsible for the operation of the entire laboratory. Most of the current computing power is used for simulation and calculation of quantum mechanics, and a small part is used for other research such as super soldier serum and gamma rays. The second one serves as the server of the virtual world Azeroth multiverse. It has been continuously expanding and upgrading. It has the largest volume and the highest cost, which is $2 billion. The third one is solely responsible for the research related to the Sky Carrier. According to Lao Wang's idea, it will also become the main control brain of the first generation of sky carriers in the future, responsible for the monitoring, detection, maintenance, and operation of the sky carriers and carrier-based aircraft. Although it has the highest technological content, it has the lowest cost. As soon as the voice of Dun Huang fell, a complex three-dimensional model appeared in front of him. Lao Wang took a closer look and found that it seemed to be somewhat similar to the Quinjet, but it looked more elegant and smooth, with a similar size and a higher appearance. As for the specific advantages, it was still a bit beyond the scope for Lao Wang. Compared with the Quinjet, Fission is faster, has stronger offensive and defensive capabilities, has more advanced control systems, weapon systems, flight stabilization systems, and a very sound life support system, which can allow 10 people to live normally for a year. If it is dormant, it can live for 100 years. Fitz introduced excitedly, Fission's engine is a supersonic engine. Although its maximum flight speed is far less than the speed of light or sublight speed, it can reach 1,000th of the speed of light at the fastest speed. It accelerates and decelerates very quickly. Through the research on the Kunlun spacecraft engine, and combined with the arc reactor technology, we have developed a new controlled nuclear fusion reactor with a power about 10 times that of the original one. Although it is not as good as Mr. Stark's vibranium reactor, it is not much different. The powerful power source can ensure that Fission can fly continuously for a year. We have analyzed the shell technology of the Kunlun spacecraft. Fission's shell is made of reinforced composite armor, including 3 layers of vibranium alloy, 7 layers of gold titanium alloy and a large amount of high-performance carbon fiber, which can continuously absorb solar energy and cosmic rays, can withstand external attacks of a certain intensity, and can also form an energy shield and protective force field of the same intensity. Fission. Fitz talked for half an hour before Lao Wang finally rubbed his temple, and couldn't help interrupting. How much has the overall performance improved compared to the Quinjet? There's no way to compare, because the two are not in the same league at all. There's at least a 50-year gap in technological content. Fitz thought for a moment and said, "We've conducted simulated battles before." Dun Huang. As soon as he finished speaking, Dun Huang's ethereal voice rang out. A total of 10 simulated battles were conducted, and the results are as follows. In the first simulated battle, we had one Fission and the other side had one Quinjet, taking off from 2 places 100 kilometers apart. 1 minute later, the Quinjet was shot down. In the second simulated battle, we had one Fission and the other side had 10 Quinjet. 10 minutes later, all 10 Quinjet were shot down. In the third simulated battle, we had one Fission and the other side had one sky carrier, including 5 Quinjet, 15 F-35 fighters and all conventional weapons. 30 minutes later, the sky carrier crashed, and all enemy fighters were shot down. The fourth simulated battle. A series of 3D simulation images appeared on the screen. Relying on supercomputers and virtual technology, although it is clearly fake, it does look the same as the real thing. 10 simulations, all wins. Fission's performance data is far from comparable to that of the Quinjet. The gap between Fission and the Quinjet is roughly equivalent to the gap between the Quinjet and the most advanced fighter planes during World War II, so it's not too obvious. What about the cost? Sky suddenly asked. If you don't consider the research and development costs, the cost of each Quinjet is about $3 billion US. Fitz thought about it for a few seconds, counting on his fingers and said, among them, the cost of the supersonic engine is about $500 million US, and the shell is more expensive, because it needs to use about 50 kilograms of vibranium, about 1 billion. The weapon system is 100 million, and the life support system is 300 million. 3 billion? Sky almost exploded, and couldn't help but exclaimed, so expensive? It's only been a few months. The research of the sky carrier and the main battle aircraft has already invested billions of US dollars, and this has not yet counted the cost of Dun Huang. How can this be 3 billion? This is almost 10 billion. That's not how it's calculated, Sky. Fitz explained in a low voice, if the production volume increases, the cost of each aircraft will be lower and lower. If 10 aircraft are built, the cost of each aircraft will be reduced to 2.5 billion. If 100 aircraft are built, it will be reduced to $2 billion US. If 1,000 aircraft are built, 1,000 aircraft? Sky widened his eyes. Even if Stark Industries is sold, it won't be enough to build them. You pay for it? Lao Wang pressed his eyebrows. Sky, don't make a fuss. The cost is not high. Some time ago, the United States had a very famous stealth bomber, the B-2. The cost was as high as $2.4 billion, but its combat effectiveness was not even comparable to the later improved Quinjet, and it was regarded as a joke. The cost of fission is only slightly higher. In terms of performance, it is many times higher. The maximum flight speed is as high as 1,000th of the speed of light. The speed of light in a vacuum is about 300,000 kilometers per second. 1,000th of the speed of light is 300 kilometers per second. The fastest intercontinental missile now is about 30 times the speed of sound, which is 10 kilometers per second. Only 1/30th of Felician. What does that mean? Only one Felician is needed to defeat the whole world. Including the acceleration and deceleration stages, it only takes a few minutes to orbit the Earth. No one can find it. Even if it is found, no one can catch up. Even if it is caught up, no one can break the energy shield and protective position. Don't say 3 billion. Even if it is 10 billion, we have to build it. How long will it take to build it? Lao Wang asked. At least 1 year. Fitz conservatively estimated, secretly calculating in his mind. Maybe it will take 2 or 3 years. 1 year. Lao Wang thought secretly. Now is the second half of 2010. 1 year later, that is, the second half of 2011. The plot of Avengers 1 is in 2012. If there are no accidents, it should be in time. In addition to flying, we must also speed up the research and development of the first generation of sky carriers. Lao Wang thought for a moment, then continued. In addition, find a Quinjet for modification right away. It doesn't need a life support system, and it doesn't need attack and defense capabilities. As long as it is fast enough to land on the moon, it'll be fine. That's easy. The outer shell of the Quinjet can withstand space travel, so we just need to replace the engine and power system. Fitz thought for 2 minutes and nodded heavily. It will be completed in a month at most. Chapter 311. Lao Wang lands on the moon, Part 1. Lao Wang thought Fitz's assurance was still trustworthy, unlike Tony, who was not reliable at all. So he decided to start the next plan. Since they had already contacted aliens, Loki didn't know whether he had encountered Thanos, and S.H.I.E.L.D. secretly launched the second phase of the research plan of the Cosmic Cube. It meant that the Earth was ready to contact, or even go to war with advanced civilizations, although in fact the Earth was not ready at all. But in the eyes of those advanced civilizations, that was it. The reason was simple. The Earth had always been there, and had always been watched by advanced civilizations. But there were hundreds of thousands or even millions of civilizations at the same level as the Earth, not to mention the entire universe, in the Milky Way alone. A low-level civilization that couldn't even leave the planet would naturally not be taken seriously by advanced civilizations. Just like a senior official of the US government would never go to China, which is tens of thousands of kilometers away, to specifically make trouble for an ordinary person. And that ordinary person was a subordinate of a certain Chinese boss. The problem was, suddenly one day, that ordinary person claimed that he had an ancestral gem, and it was a royal seal that had been missing for hundreds of years. Who wouldn't be tempted? Once the cosmic cube is activated, that level of high energy will attract the attention of all advanced civilizations and forces in the universe. What awaits the Earth at that time will be endless invasions and wars. Although Lao Wang thought about snatching the cosmic cube for his own use, it actually makes no sense. He is not Thanos, and he does not understand those knowledge that are as far back as the Big Bang. Even if he gets it, it will be useless. Although Fitz and others have good scientific research capabilities, and the research team of Azeroth Laboratory is no worse than the S.H.I.E.L.D. Science and Technology Department with Iron Man joining, it takes time to study the cosmic cube. It requires a lot of manpower and material resources. Now there are still a lot of unfinished projects on hand. I wish there were 72 hours in a day. How can I have time to study the cosmic cube? It is better to give it to S.H.I.E.L.D. for research temporarily. When the research results come out, just take it and use it. Thanos is not the only enemy. Even if he doesn't come, others will come. For example, Ronan the Accuser, who has been secretly looking for the Infinity Stones for a long time, such as the Korean Skrulls who once pursued the Cosmic Cube. Even Hela, who is about to escape. Thousands of years of peace for mankind have ended. The wonderful prelude has been opened. In this case, of course, the comprehensive strength of the human beings on Earth should be enhanced as much as possible. Inhumans are originally human beings. Human beings who have been genetically modified by the Kree are natural allies of humans. Although there has been a hatred between the two races that has lasted for tens of thousands of years, the fact that the Inhumans were forced to move away from the Earth and move to the moon was related to humans. But no matter what, the lips and teeth are cold. There are no eternal friends, nor eternal enemies. There are only eternal interests. In the face of advanced civilizations and powerful enemies, humans and Inhumans can only join forces. This is the best choice. The moon landing plan should also begin. The next morning, after a night of lingering, Lao Wang felt very comfortable all over. If it weren't for being too busy recently, at this frequency, the human creation plan should have been completed long ago, and the greatest contribution to the reproduction of mankind should have been made as much as possible. After breakfast, Lao Wang opened the door and the two came to the afterlife base. After several months and a large amount of investment, the prototype of the afterlife base has appeared. According to the requirements of Jiraiya and the Council of Elders, the afterlife base is located on another hill among the mountains, some distance away from the real afterlife. The afterlife has remained hidden for thousands of years, just like the legendary Peach Blossom Spring, and this silence cannot be broken. No matter how globalization converges, humans should still maintain some uniqueness. Colorful is life. Lao Wang looked around. A mountain with an altitude of more than 5,000 meters opened a hole on the mountainside, and then dug out a super large space with a height of nearly 100 meters and a cross-sectional area of more than 1 million square meters from the inside. Although such a feat can be accomplished with manpower and modern technology alone, it is conceivable how difficult it is, and the manpower and material resources required are simply impossible to estimate. If it is really completed, it can be called the eighth wonder of modern architecture. Sky is the main force. The ability of the Shockwave Girl is very suitable for splitting mountains and rocks. The vibration frequency of the rock mountain is much simpler than that of a human body. For Sky, it is easy to shatter the inside of the mountain according to the blueprint. The Wizards of Kamataj also provided a lot of help. In less than half a year, a secret base that is about the same size as the Trident headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D., but looks 10 times more magnificent, has taken shape. A large amount of materials were constantly transported in, large machines were operating one after another, and thousands of workers were working hard. Chinese workers were indeed much more reliable than those in other countries. Of course, they were also much cheaper. Although they had nothing to do with this world, they were Chinese people from another universe in the previous life. Lao Wang still had feelings for them, and he would take care of them as much as he could, such as reducing the selling price of steel soldiers to the lowest. For example, he helped solve some employment problems. After visiting the base in the afterlife, encouraging the main officials of the base, tightening a screw by hand, and eating a boring lunch, Lao Wang brought Sky to the afterlife. Lao Wang. Gordon immediately brought Jiraiya and Cole to greet him, and then turned around and left without stopping for a second. Strange. This man is not obsessed with Jiraiya anymore, is he? Gay? After nearly a year of getting along day and night, Jiraiya and Carl look very good, and they live a good life together. What surprised Lao Wang was that Jiraiya's belly was bulging. Although China has recently allowed the second child policy, your efficiency is too fast. Look at the roundness of the baby. Is it going to be born soon? It's still 2 months before the due date. It's his son. Carl said with a smile. We have discussed it. The daughter will have my last name, and the son will have mom's last name, Jaya. What name do you think is better? How about Jaya Baoiu? Baoiu, so precious. Lao Wang, not so good. Although Jaya Baoiu is quite lucky in love, the problem is that the ending is not very good. Do you want your son to become a monk? There are still 2 months, so you can take your time to name him. Lao Wang quickly changed the subject. I came here this time to talk to you about the moon landing. Fitz is studying the lunar landing plane, which will be able to land on the moon in at most 1 month. I need to discuss related matters with you and the Council of Elders. Moon landing? Jiarang and Carl looked at each other and nodded. In the past few months, the Afterlife has been studying ancient documents. There is nothing else, but there is only one thing that worries me. Don't worry. With me here, Attilan will never be able to annex the Afterlife. Lao Wang knew very well what the Afterlife was worried about. After thousands of years of independence, of course, he didn't want to be controlled by others all of a sudden. That's good. Jiarang breathed a sigh of relief and said, in this case, the Afterlife is ready. Who are the candidates? Lao Wang asked. Gordon, Lincoln, Whiplash, Hellfire, Yo-Yo. Jiarang looked at Sky and our daughter. Lao Wang frowned slightly. Too many people. There is no need for that. This time they are going to negotiate, not to show force, and in front of Black Bolt, no matter how many people there are, it doesn't make any sense. When Black Bolt opens his mouth, everyone has to kneel. Armed confrontation may be necessary, but there is no need to send so many people. If a fight really breaks out, except for him and Black Bolt, everyone else is a vegetable of cabbage. Hellfire, Yo-Yo and Lincoln, don't go. Lao Wang said, I'll take Sky, Whiplash and Gordon with me. Sky is the person in charge of the Afterlife base and the future Inhuman King. She has now joined the Council of Elders and is responsible for the specific affairs of the Afterlife. Apart from her, the Council of Elders is just a group of old men and women who are busy with their second spring. No one is willing to leave their hometown to take risks. Whiplash's strength is already good. After being trained by Lei Gong himself, his control of his own strength has reached a satisfactory level. Even among all the Inhumans, he can be firmly ranked in the forefront. As for Gordon, in case there is really any trouble, it will be convenient for him to run away. Okay. Jiarang nodded, trusting Lao Wang as much as she can. Then let's do it. Lao Wang made the decision. There is still a month left, and Lao Wang decided to give the members of the Afterlife delegation intensive training to ensure that they have a certain degree of self-protection ability in the god-level war on Earth. By the way, let Fitz take time to help design high-tech equipment, which can significantly enhance the strength of the three people. Time passed in a flash. A month later, a modified Quinjet took off from the Afterlife base. Thanks to bookfriend 201906050237344373 for the 500 reward. In addition, I heard that this chapter will be restored tonight, but I don't know if it's true or not. Chapter 312 Black Bolt, Part 2. The average distance between the Earth and the Moon is 380,000 kilometers. It is neither far nor near. Even light needs to fly for more than 1 second. The modified Quinjet, because the hardware in all aspects is not in place, is supported by only a supersonic engine. The actual speed is far from the 1,000th of the speed of light designed at the beginning. Acceleration and deceleration also take time. But no matter how slow it is, a few hours is enough. Because the supercomputer Dunhuang directly takes over through the quantum transmission channel, there is no need for Lao Wang to worry about it. According to the predetermined orbit, it flies to the back of the moon. If Lao Wang remembers correctly, the alien city Attilan is on the back of the moon. Due to the special speed of the moon's revolution and rotation, the moon always faces the same side of the Earth. Unless a lunar spacecraft is launched, humans will never know what is on the back of the moon. For decades, from the former Soviet Union to the United States, to China and the European Union, they have been preparing for the moon landing. Various probes have been sent to the moon one after another, taking many photos and seeing many things that should not be seen. Some probes have sent back useful pictures. Some of them were destroyed by unknown forces just after landing and now lie in Attilan. Because of their connection with the Kree, the Inhumans mastered a lot of the technology left by the Kree, so their technological level was much higher than that of the humans on Earth at the beginning. When the humans on Earth were still in primitive society, the Inhumans had already mastered the ability to travel across the stars and flew to the moon with an entire city. Of course, population is the first factor in the development of science and technology. Attilan has too small a population, and its political structure is relatively old and its development is very uneven. Over the years, there has been no progress in science and technology, and even some aspects have regressed a lot. Although it still has a lot of technology that is far superior to that of the Earth, it is already far behind overall. Attilan has long lost the ability to build spaceships to fly back to Earth, and even the original spaceships have been scrapped due to disrepair. The entire Attilan power system has completely collapsed, and the high-tech city has become an ordinary city. For thousands of years, Attilan has lost contact with the Earth. However, in recent years, a special inhuman has appeared, which has made Attilan start to pay attention to the Earth again. Attilan, underground meeting room. In the middle was a stone table the size of a billiard table. On the table was a display screen with a resolution of up to 16K, on which a real-time picture was being played. Two people wearing white robes and white hoods knelt on both sides of the stone table. They were the wise men of Attilan, with a special status. A dozen big men at the center of power in Attilan gathered together to talk. Suddenly, light footsteps sounded, so everyone stopped talking and looked towards the only exit. In the passage from top to bottom, two people were walking hand in hand. On the right was a young woman with a beautiful face, a graceful figure, half-exposed shoulders, and a lavender close-fitting robe. She was extremely charming. The most eye-catching thing was the red hair that fell to her waist. Every strand of hair was dancing softly, as if it had spirituality. On the left was a man, an expressionless man. He was wearing a tight black combat suit, with strong muscles full of deterrence, and a square face, which made him look powerful without being angry. Anyone standing in front of him would be involuntarily shorter than him, because he was the real king. They were the king and queen of the Inhumans, the leaders of Attilan and even the entire moon. Medusa, Black Bolt. Seeing the two people coming, except for the man in white who had been keeping the same posture, the others stood up quickly, moved forward slightly, bowed their heads, and showed respect. "Where is Tristana?" asked a man with black lines on his face. He was Karnak, a member of the royal family of the Inhumans and the cousin of Black Bolt. Black Bolt glanced at Medusa. Medusa said, "He has a mission, don't wait. This is the live feedback from Earth." Karnak pointed to the screen on the stone table and said, "The situation is not good." Before he finished speaking, he heard the sound of footsteps. A tall and strong man walked in. He had rock-like muscles, and every inch of his skin was full of strength. His color was completely different from that of other people, but a unique brown color that looked a bit rough, more like a beast than an alien. The most attractive thing was his legs and feet. His calves were completely different from those of humans, a bit like demons and satyrs. Where the soles of his feet should be, there was a pair of hooves, which looked more like sheep hooves and cow hooves. "Here comes another one." He threw a lunar probe onto the platform next to him. There were already more than a dozen probes piled up on it. Some were new, some were old, and some were even rusty. It looked like they had existed for at least a few decades. Different words were painted on them with different dyes, in English, Chinese, and Russian. Gorgon. Karnak glanced at the screen. "I've reminded you many times. Watch your feet." The screen suddenly stopped, and a blurry shadow appeared on it. It was difficult for outsiders to see what it was, but everyone here knew it. It was a hoof, a Gorgon's hoof. "Well, I didn't notice it." Gorgon tilted his head. "This thing has been active near Attilan. I can't let it run around. As the leader of the Royal Guard, I have an obligation to respond. Yes, it's better to respond smartly, rather than exposing everything about us to the Earthlings." Karnak snorted. "If the Earthlings see it." Gorgon immediately interrupted. "No one will know that it is my hoof. The Earthlings have never seen me." Karnak sighed. "With your IQ, if there is really no one, how could you let you be the leader of the Royal Guard?" Black Bolt glanced at Medusa. Medusa whispered, "Stop arguing. Everyone shut up immediately." Karnak looked at Medusa. "The Earthlings' detection is becoming more and more frequent, and one day they will find us. Your Majesty, what should we do?" Black Bolt made a gesture. Medusa said, "Do nothing. Wait." Another man who had been sitting on the steps in the distance suddenly asked, "Do nothing? Is this what you mean, or what the king means?" Everyone looked at Black Bolt. Black Bolt nodded. "Brother, you have the same attitude towards everything. Do nothing." The man said coldly, "Okay, do nothing. Wait for the Earthlings to find us, attack us, and then we will wait to be destroyed." Maximus. Gorgon crossed his arms and sneered. Are you so sure? Because you are also a human. I'm not a human, Gorgon. Maximus stood up. I haven't even been to Earth. But no matter what, you and I are both inhumans. We are of the same race. We have had wars with humans before. Don't forget how we came to the moon. He looked around and found that no one responded. Then he continued, we have been exiled here for too long, and the Earth is our home. We should counterattack. Counterattack immediately. Take back the Earth. Take back our home. We don't want to cause a war. Medusa was about to say something. Suddenly frowned and looked at Black Bolt. Black Bolt looked in a direction outside Attilan. Although his face was as calm as always, everyone could feel that something was unusual. An indescribable pressure came towards everyone. Even the air seemed to have solidified, making it impossible to breathe. Your Majesty, Konak, who had the sharpest perception, realized that something was wrong. Since ancient times, for tens of thousands of years, no one has been stronger than Black Bolt. The Inhumans have been carrying out eugenics programs, fusing the best genes with the best genes, to create a better next generation, and Black Bolt is one of the best. Although he has fatal flaws, he also has advantages that no other Inhuman can match. Having received the best meditation training since childhood, Black Bolt is calmer than anyone else. Now even he feels nervous. What happened? Someone is coming. Medusa whispered. It's a spaceship from Earth. Chapter 313 Tetanus, Part 1. Is this the moon? Is that Attilan? The Quinjet landed steadily on the dry and sandy land of the moon, and Sky was the first to come out. Looking at everything in front of him, he was secretly shocked. Although he had seen the introduction to the moon in elementary school textbooks a long time ago, and had read a lot of relevant information recently, and had some understanding of the situation on the moon, it was not until he saw it with his own eyes that he realized that all his previous imaginations were too pale. The deep materials mainly composed of olivine and low calcium pyroxene are everywhere, making this world look particularly desolate, and there is an illusion of coming to the Gobi Desert. In fact, the entire moon is a desert. Looking around, large and small craters appeared in front of him. Because the mass of the moon is too small, it cannot generate enough gravity, and cannot absorb a large number of gas molecules on the surface of the moon, so there is no atmosphere on the moon. Without the obstruction of the atmosphere, it is impossible to burn meteorites flying to the moon, and protect the surface of the moon. It is also impossible to maintain life and form a complete ecological system. No matter from which level, there should be no life on the moon. Of course, there may be more special primitive creatures deep underground, but it is impossible for intelligent life to be born. In fact, it is the case. The arrival of the aliens did not change the ecological environment of the entire moon, but only created a desert oasis similar to the ecological dome. The high technology inherited for 10,000 years has maintained a relatively rich atmospheric environment in Attilan and its surrounding areas. The outside world is barren. Without the atmosphere to maintain the temperature, the high temperature during the day can reach up to 120 to 30 degrees, and the low temperature at night can reach minus 180 to 90 degrees. If you throw an egg on the moon, it will be cooked, or even burst during the day, and then all the water will evaporate. At night, it will be frozen hard and brittle by the extremely low temperature. In such an extreme environment, even most aliens cannot survive, and even ordinary Asgard residents cannot bear it. But inside Attilan, it has always maintained a suitable temperature to ensure the survival of aliens. This technology alone is far superior to humans on Earth. The extreme environment restricts the aliens to the scope of mere city, limiting population growth and technological development. The poor resources make the alien civilization fragile. It's so pitiful. Looking at Attilan in the distance, Sky couldn't help but feel a little sympathetic. No matter what, everyone is an alien. Seeing her people living such a difficult life, she can't help but feel sad. Attilan is in the basin in the distance. It is tall and magnificent. The whole city is similar to a cone, with a bottom radius of more than 10 kilometers, which is roughly equivalent to the urban circle of a second-tier city in China. The city itself is more like a supergiant castle, connected by a carefully planned structure, with low surroundings and high in the middle. The so-called Attilan is actually equivalent to the ancient European city-state, with the city as the center, and radiating to the surrounding areas. Only those upper-class aliens who awaken their abilities after absorbing the Terrigen Mist are qualified to live in the center of the city, while those civilians who cannot awaken their abilities can only live outside Attilan, if they are able. The basin with a radius of more than 100 kilometers is a coverage area of Attilan's atmosphere and the activity area of aliens. That is their real territory, a territory that is only equivalent to a prefecture-level city in eastern China. I can feel a strong energy fluctuation. The whole Attilan is filled with a strange energy. The energy source seems to come from deep underground in the center of Attilan. The voice of Whiplash rang out in the spacesuit. Not everyone can survive without air. Lao Wang can, but others can't. Like Sky and Gordon, Whiplash was wearing a relatively light spacesuit, which did not affect their movements. Lao Wang smiled slightly. Although Attilan had long since fallen, the technology accumulated from the Kree was still there. The whole city, like the Earth, was powered by electricity, relying on solar energy that was many times stronger than that of the Earth, and a nuclear fusion reactor that was still operating deep underground. That was the technology of the Kree. The energy provided by the reactor and solar energy maintained a very special and powerful binding field, providing gravity similar to that of the Earth, and constraining the atmosphere that was obtained from nowhere. As long as the reactor was destroyed, the atmosphere of the entire Attilan would dissipate in a very short time. Few of the 100,000 residents of Attilan could survive. This is a powerful city, but also a fragile city. Such a city is really not suitable for survival. Let's go and take a look. Lao Wang smiled and walked towards Attilan. It's someone else's territory, not a fight. If you can avoid teleporting, don't teleport. It's not respectful. Lao Wang always uses courtesy before force. And no matter what the situation is, it is necessary to hide your strength. The cards that are not revealed are the trump cards. The gravity of the moon is only 1/6 of that of the Earth. An ordinary person can jump more than 10 meters high. The gravity brought by gravity becomes smaller, and the footsteps naturally become lighter. In less than an hour, several people came to the edge of the basin. An invisible force field turned the inside and outside of the basin into two worlds. On one side is endless desolation, and on the other side is pleasing green. Just about to walk into it. Someone is coming, Gordon said suddenly. As soon as he reminded him, he found that Lao Wang had already looked in a certain direction in advance. The strong spatial fluctuations not only attracted their attention, but also attracted the attention of Sky and Whip. In the eyes of everyone, a group of people appeared in front of them out of thin air. Lao Wang's eyes swept over Black Bolt and Medusa. These two are the most famous, and have the most obvious characteristics. One has energy fluctuations and a strong physique that are no less than Thor, and the other's hair is always fluttering, which is very spiritual. The guy who looks very strong and has a pair of sheep's hooves should be Gorgon, the leader of Attilan's royal guard. His strength is pretty good. The other guy with black stripes all over his face is obviously Konnak, a fighter who has never absorbed the Terrigen Mist and has no superpowers, but his physical fitness is more perfect than Captain America. He is also an annoying priest and philosopher. In addition to these four, there is another more obvious guy, a dog. A big dog that is somewhat similar to an English bulldog, but several times larger. And on it, Lao Wang sensed a stronger spatial fluctuation than Gordon. There is no doubt, it was it that used the spatial superpower to teleport Black Bolt and others here. Big Dog Tetanus. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 314. That fatty is the easiest to bully. Part 2. The old king stared at Tetanus with interest. This is a very interesting dog. The evolution of the aliens must rely on the Terrigen Mist, and the Terrigen Mist exists in the Terrigen Crystal. All Terrigen Crystals come from Attilan, and so far, no second Terrigen mine has been found. In other words, no matter how many Terrigen Crystals Attilan has, they are limited in non-renewable resources, and they will run out sooner or later. From the moment they were born, the aliens faced the end of their abilities disappearing. The genes of the race will not be cut off, but if the hope of evolution is lost, and those strange abilities are lost, then what is the difference between aliens and ordinary humans? No matter from which angle, Atalan's control over the Terrigen crystals has reached the most strict and serious level. Each Terrigen crystal is hidden in the most important and heavily guarded place in Atalan, and it must be opened by multiple people at the same time, including the wise men of the Gene Council, members of the royal family, and even the king himself. Every Terrigen mutation ceremony must be presided over by the king himself, and the importance can be imagined. In this case, even Black Bolt himself could not use the precious Terrigen crystal for his pet dog. This was not only a subversion of tradition, but also a challenge to the entire inhuman race, which would inevitably cause public protests and even impeachment by the Gene Council. So here comes the question. Since only Inhumans can use Terrigen crystals, then this big dog named Tetanus is obviously a person. Looking at it staying next to Black Bolt obediently, sticking out its tongue, and rubbing Black Bolt's arm, no matter how you look at it, it is no different from a dog. It's simply amazing. Because Terrigen mutated into a dog, it really lived like a dog. So is it an inhuman gene or a dog gene? If it wants to reproduce, should it look for inhumans or dogs? Either way, it seems to challenge ethics. The big dog felt Lao Wang's strange look, and barked at Lao Wang a few times. Lao Wang subconsciously took out a piece of dragon bone and threw it over. As Black Bolt's official spokesperson, Medusa wanted to say something. But when she saw this scene, she was speechless. Earthling, you really treat Tetanus as a dog. Karnak and Gorgon, one with his hands hanging down on both sides of his body, and the other with his arms crossed, watched the show with a mysterious smile. Black Bolt stared at the dragon bone in a strange way, frowning slightly, feeling something and remembering something, but he didn't stop it. The dragon bone drew a beautiful arc in the air, and fell into Tetanus' mouth. Probably based on the instinct of a pet dog, it actually bit the bone. The next moment, it began to grin, and was about to rush towards Lao Wang, feeling wronged and angry. You really treat me as a dog, Earthling, are you tired of living? Just as he was about to pounce on me and bite me, suddenly, hey, it smells so good. It bit hard, and the dragon bone, which was harder than steel, actually broke with a click. A look of surprise appeared on the big dog's face. Snap, snap. It bit the dragon bone into pieces in a few bites, and then swallowed it into its stomach, with a satisfied look on its face. This strange bone has a taste that other bones don't have. It's delicious and useful. It felt that some strange changes seemed to have taken place in its body, benign ones, and it became more energetic. Even its teeth became much better, and it enjoyed everything it ate. Woof woof. It barked at Lao Wang, and its humane expression was full of flattery. Hey, hey. Such delicious bones. Can you give me a few hundred more? Medusa. Karnak. Gorgon. We haven't even said a word to the Earthlings, and you're eating their food. How can we talk about it next? Do you really think you're a dog? Earthlings. The irritable Gorgon took a step forward and showed his fist as big as a casserole. You are not welcome here. Go back to your Earth. Whip laughed. For psychologists, this kind of provocation is no different from children playing house, so they don't bother to pay attention. Gordon's attention was all on Tetanus. He was not only curious about this inhuman who was said to have a stronger teleportation ability than himself, but also unconvinced. He always wanted to compare and see who was more awesome. Sky was eyeing Black Bolt. She learned from Lao Wang about Black Bolt's ability to release destructive energy through his voice. Even the energy released by a whisper is quite terrifying. The fully released energy is equivalent to a nuclear explosion. He is a real humanoid self-propelled reusable nuclear bomb. What's more terrifying is that Black Bolt's sound waves are not real sound waves, but pseudo sound waves. In fact, they belong to the category of electromagnetic energy and can be transmitted in a vacuum. They are not restricted by terrain and environment at all. They seem to be more powerful than herself. Of course, Black Bolt's ability can only be released through sound, while her ability can be released through any part of the body. This is her strength. The two people's abilities have similarities and differences. They are both the strongest aliens who have used an entire obelisk / a whole Terrigen crystal to complete the mutation ritual. Who is weaker and who is stronger, you will know after fighting. Although she knew that her transformation time was too short and she had not completely mastered her abilities, she was probably not Black Bolt's opponent, but she was still eager to try. With Lao Wang by her side, there was nothing to be afraid of. Lao Wang cast his eyes on Karnak next to him. Lao Wang was still somewhat curious about this inhuman philosopher, who could have a more perfect physique than Captain America and a stronger perception than Daredevil just by meditation and training. He always felt that the two could talk to each other. He could also talk to Lei Gong, and he was full of philosophical aura. You ignored me. Gorgon was angry. He suddenly stomped his feet. The whole ground began to shake, and a terrible shockwave radiated in all directions. Lao Wang did not move, Sky did not move, and Whip and Gordon did not move. Gorgon's face showed a trace of mockery. His superpowers are not only reflected in his strong physical fitness, but also in his feet. By stepping on the ground to send shockwaves, he can easily defeat dozens of elite royal guards. In terms of pure frontal combat, his strength can at least rank in the top 5 in Attilan. However, an accident happened. The shockwave suddenly disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Gorgon was stunned. What happened? Black Bolt's expression did not change. He gently held Medusa's hand and told her his thoughts through telepathy. Medusa was thoughtful. Karnak immediately turned his eyes to Sky. Although he had no idea how the other party did it, it must be her. This was his intuition and the result of observation. Just now, Sky's body suddenly moved with a very small amplitude. The amplitude was too small and the speed was very fast, almost invisible to the naked eye. To be able to do this, his physical fitness must be very strong, and it is very likely that it is not inferior to himself. Such a guy is definitely not simple. Thinking of the records in the ancient books of Attilan, Karnak was slightly cold. Attilan's technology was tens of thousands of years ahead of the Earthlings, but it was driven out of the Earth by humans, and had to settle on the moon, because the Earth was very deep, and had many great heritages. This woman must be one of them. Gorgon couldn't figure out why Shockwave disappeared, but this did not prevent him from making a judgment. As the leader of Attilan's royal guard, in this case, he must be the first to take action and test the other party's ability, so that His Majesty the King can make a judgment. So there was almost no hesitation. He clenched his fists and rushed towards the old king. In his opinion, the only woman who had been looking at His Majesty the King and seemed to want to fight him must be the most powerful person on earth. The dark-skinned middle-aged man with glasses looked contemptuous and even ignored him, and seemed to look down on him. He should not be easy to mess with. The blind guy dared to come to Attilan, even though he couldn't see anything. He must be very powerful. Only the slightly fat Chinese man looked harmless. Then, sorry. Thanks to I'm here to be bored for the 2100 reward. Chapter 315, Lao Wang's Spiritual World, Part 1. At the same time that Gorgon attacked, Black Bolt and Medusa communicated telepathically at an extremely fast speed. My dear, these people seem to be quite strong. Gorgon may not be their opponent. Medusa squeezed Black Bolt's palm and felt it was a little warm, even sweaty. This situation usually only occurs at night. Is he nervous? Black Bolt also pinched Medusa's palm. They might be Inhumans. Inhumans? Medusa's hand suddenly exerted force. Are there our people? Are there Inhumans on Earth? Black Bolt rubbed Medusa's palm with his thumb to comfort her. Before our ancestors left Earth, Inhumans and Earthlings intermarried and left many descendants. Some Inhumans did not have time to retreat and stayed on Earth. There is also a Kree temple on Earth, which contains many prophet obelisks. Each obelisk contains the equivalent of a crystal of Terrigen mist. Medusa's hand stiffened slightly. Are they here to recognize their relatives? Want to join Attilan? No, it's not that simple. Black Bolt clenched his hands gently. It's indeed not that simple. They are very strong. The blind man has strong spatial fluctuations, and his ability is similar to tetanus. The black man with glasses seems to have the ability to manipulate energy, and even I'm a little afraid of him. That woman is even more extraordinary. She can manipulate shockwaves. It was she who smoothed out Gorgon's shockwaves. Her potential is likely to be on the same level as mine. Medusa's hand trembled, and her nails almost broke, because of pinching Black Bolt's palm. So strong. I can't seem to beat any of them. So I'm so weak. Black Bolt hurriedly comforted, that blind man shouldn't be able to beat you if he stands still and lets you hit him. Medusa pinched the soft flesh of Black Bolt's palm hard. Fortunately Gorgon is smart and chose the weakest one. I don't feel any threat from the fat man. He should be an ordinary person. No. Black Bolt squeezed Medusa's hand tightly, and his telepathic transmission trembled slightly. He is the strongest one. Telepathic communication is countless times faster than language. Although so much communication was done, it actually only took 1 second. Gorgon rushed to Lao Wang. He was very tall, nearly 2 meters, and he seemed to have an overwhelming advantage in front of Lao Wang. He was very strong, with powerful muscles full of explosive power all over his body, bulletproof skin, and several tons of strength. Even if he was thrown into Asgard, he would not be much worse than an ordinary soldier. He was definitely at the level of a stonemason or blacksmith. He was fast and good at fighting. He had received the best training. In terms of fighting skills, he was only slightly inferior to Karnak and Black Bolt. His punch, although it could not split a mountain, could really crack rocks. In an instant, his fist was less than 10 centimeters away from Lao Wang. A smile appeared on the corner of Gorgon's mouth. He was going to win. He even thought about whether to hold back and not really kill anyone. His Majesty the King did not seem to want to cause a war for the time being, so he could not cause trouble at this time. This idea had just appeared when it was forced to stop. Lao Wang smiled slightly, raised his left hand, and stretched out his middle finger. With the tip of his finger facing inward, he gently stood in front of Gorgon's fist. Then he bent it, and suddenly bounced it. After 1/10 second, Gorgon felt pain. His fist hurts. As he felt the pain, he found that the smiling fat man was getting farther and farther away. At first it was only about 1 meter, then it became 5 meters, 10 meters, and then 100 meters. Then it was farther and farther. He saw the backs of Black Bolt and Medusa, and then the backs of these people were getting farther and farther away. He saw the clouds in the sky, the magnificent Attilan, and then the earth, the mud and the turbid water on the earth. Boom. He fell headfirst into it, and turned into a scallion. An upside down scallion. He could not see or hear anything, and there was only endless darkness in front of him. The unpleasant smell and mud filled his eyes, mouth, nose, and ears. Gorgon. Karnak shouted, and was about to rush over. He saw Lao Wang hook his hand. An invisible big hand grabbed Gorgon's left leg, gently pulled it out with mud and water, and then threw it next to Black Bolt. Gorgon lay on his back, mud and sewage flowed out of his 7 orifices, and he looked up at the sky with his eyes wide open, pale, and lifeless, doubting his life. I, Gorgon, the leader of the Royal Guard. I was defeated by a finger. A hand lifted him up. Come on, Gorgon. Karnak shouted in a low voice. It's no big deal if you can't beat him. Anyway, you can't beat me, the king, or the queen. In the history of Attilan, there are many people you can't beat. You can't even beat Tetanus. Gorgon's dilated pupils slowly focused, thinking that what you said made sense, and I didn't even believe that you said it. Besides, it sounded like you could beat Tetanus. Then, he heard Karnak say, besides, whether it's you or me, the king or the queen, or the person who defeated you, they are all insignificant drops in the long river of history. In the end, the entire universe will escape into darkness, and the black hole will swallow up all the space in the universe. Everyone and everything you know will be sucked into the endless nothingness. No one can witness all this, and no one needs to worry about it. What does it matter whether you can beat him or not? We will all die, sooner or later, and the key is what way to die is more philosophical. Gorgon's mouth twitched slightly. You are still the Karnak that no one cares about. Medusa took a breath. Although she knew that this person was very strong a few seconds ago, she didn't expect him to be so strong. Is he really an inhuman? Did he absorb more than one strand of Terrigen mist when he transformed? Medusa quickly rejected this idea. According to the research of the Attilan wise man, no inhuman can absorb more than one strand of Terrigen mist. This is the limit determined by genes, and cannot be exceeded. But how could this person be so strong? The most important thing is, as long as he is an inhuman, he has genetic defects. Why can't I see his defects? Dear, we may need you to shock them. Can you do it? Although she has always been confident in her husband's ability, she is still a little uncertain when facing this fat guy. Black Bolt was about to say something, but was suddenly interrupted by a voice. There is no need to be so troublesome. Lao Wang smiled slightly. Black Bolt, I think we can communicate directly. As soon as the voice fell, a vague and distant spiritual power enveloped Black Bolt. He subconsciously wanted to resist, but it was too late. Everything around him changed instantly and turned into a strange space. It seems like this is a vacuum outside of stars, a universe outside of the universe, and it is dark everywhere. Only in a small area within sight, there is light from nowhere, illuminating everything. An ordinary courtyard, 5 tiled houses over 20 years old. The slightly fat boy appeared in front of him. This is. Black Bolt was a little uncertain and doubted in his heart. Don't worry. You can talk freely here. I know your ability is actually to manipulate electromagnetic energy, but believe me, as long as I don't want it to, your electromagnetic energy can't be spread out. Because. Lao Wang smiled calmly. This is my spiritual world. Chapter 316 The enemy is on the way. Part 2. Humph, only the queen can communicate with the king. Hearing the old king's words, Gorgon was about to laugh. Suddenly, Karnak glared at him, then stared at the old king, with doubt on his face, and then solemnity. Long-term meditation training has allowed his spiritual perception ability to reach a level far beyond that of ordinary people. He can sense the stress points and fracture surfaces of the surrounding materials, and can also sense the weaknesses of the surrounding creatures. By applying pressure to these points, he can destroy the material or defeat the target. Although he does not have the super 5 senses like Daredevil, his comprehensive perception ability is even stronger than Daredevil. This gives him extremely powerful analytical ability, and even manifests as a certain ability to predict the development trend of things in the future for a short period of time. But not now. A soul that is not strong enough cannot support a strong enough spirit. He cannot perceive the old king's spiritual world, but at least he can perceive some abnormalities. The mental abnormality of Black Bolt. His eyes are dull, and the electromagnetic energy in his body tends to be unstable, as if it is facing out of control. Medusa. Karnak just opened his mouth and saw Medusa shaking her head, her face a little confused, nervous and worried. In contrast, Sky and the other two seemed much more relaxed. Sky certainly knew how powerful the old king's spiritual power was. Whiplash and Gordon didn't know, but they were very convinced of the old king, and knew how great the old king was. There was nothing to worry about. The one who should be worried about was the inhuman of Attilan, Black Bolt. Everyone's eyes were cast on the old king, and Black Bolt at the same time. Spiritual world. Black Bolt looked around. His superpowers had nothing to do with the spirit. Although he had received the most rigorous meditation training since childhood, which made his spirit much stronger than ordinary people, he was just like Karnak, and could only perform limited telepathy, and was far from the level of creating a spiritual world. Even in the history of Attilan, there were so many inhumans who awakened superpowers related to the mind and spirit, more than 300, but not a single one could create a spiritual world. This requires too much spiritual power, more than the sum of 300 people in history. This is simply unimaginable. What kind of powerful existence is this person in front of him? Is he not as young as he seems, but an antique who has lived for thousands or tens of thousands of years? First of all, let me formally introduce myself. I'm from Earth. I'm the director of the Extraterrestrial Threat Strategic Defense Offensive and Multidimensional Strategic Cooperation General Bureau. My surname is Wang. If you think my name is too long, then I'm the director of the Divine Stick Bureau. Old Wang smiled and said, do you want tea or coffee? Although this is a spiritual world, everything will be very real, and have a real experience. He did not ask Black Bolt to sit down. The distance between the two was a bit far, about 10 meters. This is a relatively safe distance, which should make Black Bolt feel a little relieved. Tea. Black Bolt spoke. His voice was very low. He carefully sensed the changes around him. His body structure is very strange. As long as he opens his mouth to speak, whether it is the physical body or the current mental state, it will cause electromagnetic energy fluctuations and emit extremely terrible pseudo-sound waves with extremely strong destructive power. When he was young, when he had just completed the Terrigen mutation ritual, he killed his father and mother, a pair of very powerful inhumans, because he spoke. As long as he opens his mouth, he can easily destroy the entire Attilan and kill everyone. And now, he has controlled his voice as much as possible, and reduced the electromagnetic energy to a minimum, but the pseudo-sound waves he emits are still enough to destroy 10 reinforced concrete rooms. However, nothing happened. The essence of spirit is also energy. Since this is a spiritual world, everything is made up of spiritual energy, and can be destroyed by pseudo-sound waves. But no. The electromagnetic energy released by pseudo-sound waves completely disappeared less than 1 meter away from his lips. What kind of power is this? The entire universe is ultimately made up of matter and energy. Any superpower or other ability is related to energy. All abilities are essentially unified. Whether it's your pseudo-sound waves or my true ki, as long as they are controlled to the limit, the effect is the same. Lao Wang waved his hand, and a cup of warm black tea floated in front of Black Bolt. Try it? Black Bolt picked it up, and looked at it, then drank it all in one gulp, chewing the tea leaves, and swallowing them into his stomach. It's a bit bitter. What you said makes sense. You are a philosopher. I didn't say that, but a martial arts master named Changzi said that all things have the same origin. Lao Wang once again smoothed out the electromagnetic fluctuations caused by Black Bolt's opening, raised his eyebrows. You don't seem to be proficient in the manipulation of electromagnetic energy. It seems that you rarely speak. Black Bolt said calmly, since I mutated, I have spoken no more than 10 times. Black Bolt's voice was a little strange, with a special tone, and he spoke word by word. It felt like a child who had just learned to speak, which made people laugh and sympathize. You haven't spoken for so many years, aren't you feeling suffocated? This is not good, you should practice more. Doesn't tetanus have the ability of interplanetary teleportation? Why don't you let it send you to a desolate planet to practice? It won't cause harm to Attilan. Lao Wang kindly reminded, you have to practice more. Otherwise, what if you encounter danger? For example, if I run to Attilan now to massacre your people, will you use your ability or not? If you use it, more people will die. If you don't use it, won't you be able to save your people? Black Bolt. He suddenly felt that the person in front of him was so strange. Are we familiar with each other? Why do I feel like you are my good friend and care about me so much? Are you really going to Attilan to massacre? His spirit was shaken, and he said in a deep voice, if you dare to do that, I promise you will die. Don't get excited, don't get excited, I'm just giving an example. Lao Wang smoothed out the electromagnetic fluctuations again, and said with a smile, the universe is very big, and Attilan may not be safe. Aren't there the Kree? The Inhumans are the experimental products of the Kree. What if one day the Kree finds out that you are still alive and wants to destroy you? You still have to practice well, and have the ability to protect yourself. I'm doing this for your own good. I'll consider it. Black Bolt couldn't figure out what this man meant, so he decided to get straight to the point. You seem to know us very well. Are you an Inhuman from Earth? What exactly do you want to do by coming to Attilan? First of all, I'm not an Inhuman, they are. Lao Wang corrected him, and then said, secondly, I'm here to help you. Help us? Black Bolt was silent for a few seconds and said, I don't think we need help, we just need peace. We have lived in the blue zone of the moon for thousands of years, and don't want to come into contact with the people on Earth for the time being. Contact is something that will happen not because you don't want to. The development of all things in the universe is not subject to human will. Of course, if you are strong enough, just ignore what I said. Lao Wang shrugged. The Earth and the moon are neither close nor far, and they will come into contact sooner or later. And we are not alone. There are so many advanced civilizations in the universe, and we can't hide from them if we want to. All races in the solar system are a community of shared destiny, and the same is true for the universe. The connection between all things is inevitable. If it is changed forcibly, the consequences will be serious. Black Bolt, advanced civilizations will not look down on a small place like the Earth. and we will not be in danger for the time being. That was the case before, but not now. Lao Wang sighed. King Radiation, the enemy is on the way. Chapter 317 Supergiant Star and Nebula, Part 3. While the Old King and Black Bolt were talking in spirit, somewhere in the depths of the universe, on a desolate and broken planet, a dark ancient throne floated. It seemed to be made of ordinary rocks, but every rock exuded the breath of destruction, and no one dared to approach. There was only one exception. Getting up from the ground and breaking free from the bondage of the Chitterguards, Loki looked up at the throne, with envy and contempt in his heart, and a smile on his face. Thanos, this is a deal. The cosmic cube is yours, and the earth and the entire 9 realms are mine. A very fair deal. The throne rotated, revealing a purple figure. The director of the Cosmic Family Planning Office, the new favorite of the goddess of death, the absolutely fair saint, the destroyer of countless planets, the heir and terminator of Titan. Thanos bowed his head and looked at the Asgardian who called himself the god of trickery, with a hint of playfulness at the corner of his mouth. Tell me what you think. This is subject to your arrangement. Your will is my decision. Great Thanos. Loki bent down. His movements were elegant, and his attitude was respectful. Go to Earth. I will grant you the Mind Scepter. Thanos' voice sounded. I think you know how to do it. A graceful woman swayed from behind the throne and handed Loki a scepter with an exaggerated shape. The bronze body of the scepter had a beautiful curve, and the sharp crescent-shaped head was inlaid with a yellow gem. Under the effect of some strange magic or technology, it was wrapped by another gem and emitted a pale yellow light. Seeing the scepter, Loki's eyes lit up instantly. This is. He stroked the scepter, just like stroking his brother. Feeling the power that was countless times stronger than his own, he muttered to himself, this is the power to manipulate the mind, the artifact that every wizard dreams of. Compared to it, the Spear of Eternity is just a useless crutch. With it, I can play with Odin and Thor at will. I will let them fall into endless illusions. I can manipulate anyone's mind. I can easily become the ruler of Asgard and even the 9 realms. I can. It doesn't belong to you, Asgardian. The blue-skinned woman wore silver white close-fitting armor and a silver white cloak. She looked like an exquisite vase, full of the coolness of high-tech and magic. She was very tall, almost 2 meters tall, floating in the air, looking down at Loki with an absolutely high attitude. She was shrouded in mysterious power, making it difficult to see her expression, but from her tone, Loki heard a strong disdain. That was the disdain of higher beings for lower beings. The woman's attitude towards him was exactly the same as his attitude towards the Earthlings, inferior race, not worthy of standing in front of me. Loki narrowed his eyes slightly. He soon realized that this was a being more powerful than himself, with a spiritual power as vast as the ocean. The other person's skin color reminded him of the Kree. Could it be that this woman actually had the blood of the Kree, and Thanos cooperated with the Kree? The Supreme Wisdom would never cooperate with the Star Destroyer. Could it be that the arrogant commander of the Accusation Corps, the Accuser Ronan? Loki's face looked very bad. The average lifespan of the Kree was only 200 or 300 years. This woman looked no more than 50 years old, but her spiritual power was stronger than his. Was it born, or related to this scepter? He was silent, and didn't want to provoke this curvy woman. To him, this woman was even more terrifying than Thor, and it was difficult to deal with. He could only secretly despise her in his heart. A woman who dares not even show her face. One day I will make you look good. Suddenly, a spiritual power penetrated into Loki's mind in a very secretive way. He quickly set up more than a dozen layers of mental barriers, and saw that the woman's face was very ugly. Advanced telepathic ability? You want to invade my mind, manipulate my spirit, and steal my memory? Despicable thief. The woman snorted, and was about to take action, to teach this arrogant little white face a lesson, but suddenly stopped. You need knowledge, enough ancient knowledge to use this scepter. Thanos glanced at the woman. Superstar will tell you this knowledge. Loki was stunned. Don't resist. The cold and teasing voice sounded in his mind. Loki felt like a sponge, wrapped and soaked by cold seawater. A huge amount of knowledge poured into his mind, completely subverting his 3 views. So that's it. It turns out that this scepter actually contains part of the power of the cosmic explosion. Although it is clear that the knowledge given to him by Superstar must be only a part of this scepter, and even the knowledge obtained by Superstar may only be a part of what Thanos gave him, but Loki is very satisfied. For the god of trickery who is good at playing tricks, this knowledge far exceeds the sum of what he has learned from Frigga for more than 1,000 years. It takes a long time to digest it slowly. Now tell me what you are going to do. Thanos' voice sounded. Loki did not hesitate at all. I will use the astral projection method to go to the earth. Use the power given to me by the Mind Scepter to control the research of the Cosmic Cube. Open the portal and come in person, and then use the Cosmic Cube to open the Interstellar Gate. Loki said, then you can lead the Chitta army to attack the earth and help me destroy all enemies. A simple and stupid plan. Superstar disdainful. Simple means effective, and there won't be too many changes. Loki was not humble. The change has already appeared. A strange device suddenly appeared in the void, projecting a beam of light, forming a three-dimensional image of the earth in midair. The image quickly enlarged and focused on a person. It was a slightly fat Chinese man wearing very ordinary jeans and t-shirts. The next second, a large number of high-definition videos and pictures appeared. A strange blue-skinned woman whose body had been replaced with a machine walked in front of Thanos, knelt on one knee, and placed the rapiers in both hands on the ground, with her forehead on the ground, as respectful as possible. Father, who is he? Thanos asked. The cyborg woman quickly replied, he is the director of the Earth's Bureau of Divine Influences, the immortal Iron Fist of Kunlun, the friend of the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One, and the brother of Asgard's Crown Prince Thor. Loki's expulsion is related to him. Really? Thanos leaned forward slightly, barely raising a hint of interest. The universe is too big, and he has too many things to care about. A person who can make Loki suffer is worth wasting a few minutes of his time. What's wrong with him? Nebula, my best daughter, Thanos asked. He took the Inhumans from Earth to the moon, and wanted to form an alliance with Black Bolt of Attilan. Nebula said. Black Bolt. Thanos raised his eyebrows slightly. This name. I've never heard of it. What are Inhumans? The Inhumans are related to the Kree. Nebula repeated the connection between the Inhumans and the Kree, and then said, Black Bolt is the most powerful Inhuman in history. If you hadn't asked me to investigate Loki, I wouldn't have found Black Bolt. Attilan has never interacted with the outside world, and is very hidden. Even the Kree don't know of their existence. I only got this information after I hacked into their communication system. Another large amount of information appeared. Thanos finished reading it quickly and nodded. Interesting. If it weren't so close to the Earth and inconvenient, I really want to meet them. Nebula said quickly. Father, your daughter is willing to go to the moon and capture King and Black Bolt. Since it is related to the Kree, let the Kree go and cause trouble for the Earth and the moon to attract attention, making it easier for Loki to sneak in and make trouble. Thanos said lightly, notify the accuser Onan. Father, you have more important things to do. Thanos looked at the superstar, Ghost Rider, Hulk, Thor. Many small characters have appeared on the Earth and attracted the attention of Asgard. Fortunately, the Rainbow Bridge has been broken. You go to Earth with Loki, and don't make any mistakes. Chapter 318 A Fair Fight, Part 1. Attilan, the spiritual world. I don't understand what you mean. Black Bolt looked at Lao Wang. In the endless universe, the Earth is just an insignificant little place, and Attilan is even more insignificant dust. No one will care. If Attilan is really invaded by foreign enemies, there is only one possibility. Human. Lao Wang smiled. I knew you would think so. But I want to tell you that humans have never been the enemies of the Inhumans. We are natural allies. Only when we unite together can we resist the real enemy. The real enemy? Black Bolt thought thoughtfully. 15 years ago, the Kree accusation fleet tried to attack the Earth. At that time, the whole Attilan was very nervous, thinking that the Kree were going to destroy them as test subjects. The royal family and the Gene Council did not even think of fighting, because in front of the powerful Kree fleet, Attilan was nothing, and could be easily destroyed. So the top leaders decided to retreat at the first time, and through the special abilities of some special Inhumans, they fled to another planet that had been selected long ago, a planet that was not far away, but had a worse environment than the moon. Or they could escape directly back to Earth. As a result, before they set off, they found out that it was a false alarm. The interstellar missiles launched by the Accusation fleet were aimed at the Earth. They were missiles of the highest civilization in the universe. Although they were not annihilation missiles that could destroy planets, only one missile was needed to blow Attilan into pieces, and even the protective positions left by the Kree people 10,000 years ago could not stop them. How could the Earth, with its lower technological level, stop them? Everyone thought that day was the end of the Earth, and human civilization would inevitably be destroyed. At that moment, many aliens felt a little sad in their hearts, because the moon was just a place of exile, and the Earth was their home. At this moment, a woman appeared. A glowing woman left the Earth, and destroyed all missiles and many Accusation starships by herself, forcing the fleet to flee in panic and terrified. In the 15 years since then, the Kree people have never appeared again, and people have gradually forgotten about this matter. The people of Attilan still live a peaceful life. All of this was concealed by the top leaders, and he only knew about it after he became king. Could it be? They are coming again. When he thought of this, Black Bolt became a little nervous. Although he is the most powerful inhuman in the history of Attilan, he is probably not good enough in front of that woman. If he must face the powerful Kree fleet, he knows very well that he will never be able to stop it. The Kree are not the only enemy. The old king shook his head gently. Some enemies may not be as powerful as the Kree Empire, but they are more terrifying than the Kree Empire. Who? Thanos. Thanos. The old king told the story of Thanos' rise to power, and then asked, Bad King, you don't want half of the Inhumans in Attilan to die, right? Among them maybe your wife, your sister, your cousin, or even yourself. Are the Infinity Stones really that powerful? Black Bolt still couldn't believe it. Can you destroy half of the life in the entire universe with just a snap of your fingers? This is simply unimaginable. There is nothing that cannot be understood, Bad King. Even the three empires can only glimpse a little of the mysteries of the universe, let alone the Inhumans and humans. Human civilization has only been around for a few thousand years, and the Inhuman civilization is also less than 10,000 years. Compared with the entire universe, we are indeed just a wave in the long river of history. Lao Wang said, but in the face of Thanos' ambition, we must join forces. Black Bolt was silent. He had to think. The man in front of him was very powerful, and had a special identity. His words should be credible. He didn't have to consider this. Since the other party came to the door, he must have a purpose. The alliance may be the other party's purpose, but who will take the lead? The Earth will never give up the dominant position, but how could Attilan be willing? So, I want to see your ability. Black Bolt didn't beat around the bush, and said whatever he thought. Although he has a high IQ, he never likes conspiracies and intrigues. In the cosmic battlefield, true strength determines everything. No matter how clever the conspiracy is, it will be shattered by absolute power. He wants to know how strong the man in front of him is. In fact, the other party has already threatened, and the sentence running to Attilan to massacre is not a joke. The other party may not do that, but he cannot help but consider it. In this case, maybe he can only compromise. But he has to fight before he can compromise. Only in this way can he win as much right to speak as possible. Bad King, are you sure? Lao Wang raised his eyelids. He didn't expect things to go so smoothly. He originally planned to forcefully show his strength and subdue the other party, but he didn't expect that the other party would be so proactive. He was a little embarrassed. He wondered if he should be gentler and give the other party face. Black Bolt nodded. The spiritual world is my battlefield. Your soul is not strong enough, so it's a bit of a bullying to you. Lao Wang said lightly, in this case, let's find a desolate planet far away from here, and you and I will have a fair fight. Lao Wang withdrew the spiritual world. Back to reality, Black Bolt's heart suddenly determined. Although his superpower is not real sound waves, but pseudo sound waves, he is confident that he can destroy the spiritual world, but the feeling of being in a completely unfamiliar environment and being controlled by others is still very uncomfortable, and he is not interested in experiencing it a second time. The guest is at the host's convenience. You choose the location. Lao Wang made a pleased gesture. Location? Karnak thought of something and seemed to be thinking about something. Gorgon asked hurriedly, Your Majesty, what did you promise him? Black Bolt kept silent, fearing that he might accidentally kill Gorgon. Gorgon had no choice but to look at Medusa. Through telepathy and communication with Black Bolt, Medusa understood her husband's meaning and was a little worried. The other party came prepared and must be sure. "Can you do it, husband?" Black Bolt pinched Medusa's palm to reassure her and then touched her tetanus. The big dog raised his head and rubbed it in the palm of Black Bolt's hand. Suddenly, a forked white light like Teletubbies appeared between his eyebrows. Black Bolt glanced at Medusa. Medusa looked at Lao Wang and asked, "Earthling, the king chose Mars, which is relatively close. Do you want to go by yourself, or let the big dog take you there?" The confrontation has begun. This is a test and a demonstration. We can perform interplanetary teleportation. Can you do it too? Lao Wang glanced at Gordon. Gordon shook his head slightly, his face a little ugly. His ability looks the same as Tetanus's, but there is a difference. Tetanus' ability belongs to teleportation, which seems to be related to the transformation of matter and energy, while his ability is related to space. There is an essential difference between the two. Simply put, although it is the same teleportation, he needs more energy and is more difficult. So even if he has done it so many times, his teleportation range is still limited. He can only teleport within the scope of the Earth, and the positioning is not accurate enough. He needs to know the destination of the teleportation, which is somewhat similar to the portal of the Camotage Wizard. Big Dog Tetanus is different. According to Director Wang, Tetanus can teleport anyone or any substance to where it wants to go. There may be space limitations, but it is definitely not as big as himself, and it is extremely accurate and effortless. They are not at the same level at all. Teleporting from the moon to Mars requires more than 40 million kilometers at the closest. I really can't do it. What can I do? Chapter 319 Bat King, wait for me. Second update. Medusa smiled. The other party can't do it. This is great. It means that we have the initiative and can teleport away or come back at any time. Being able to advance and retreat is a real magic weapon. Just thinking about it, I heard Lao Wang say, "It doesn't matter, I'll go by myself." Sky managed to hold back his surprise and thought to himself, "Wang, can you do it? You won't be unable to come back halfway through the teleportation, right?" Gordon didn't have so many thoughts and felt a little lonely. "I thought I could help this time and show my presence. I didn't expect. So what's the point of my existence?" Black Bolt nodded. Tetanus flashed a white light and disappeared with Black Bolt. It was only about a second later, it appeared again. Everyone looked at Lao Wang at the same time, and the meaning was very clear. "It's your turn." Lao Wang smiled slightly. Interplanetary teleportation is not easy, nor is it difficult. Whether it is the Marvel world or the world of Warcraft, it is not something that ordinary people can do. Regarding teleportation, Lao Wang specifically consulted the Ancient One. He knew that, although the ring could theoretically open a portal to any place in the universe, or even any place in the multiverse, it depended on the individual whether it could be done. The farther the teleportation distance, the greater the energy required, and the higher the spiritual requirements. If she reached the level of the Ancient One, relying on the power of the Trinity of Vishanti and the Eye of Agamotto, she could travel at any time on the cosmic level, drink tea on Earth in the morning, go to Jotunheim to enjoy the cool at noon, and go to Zinta to hang out at night. Even Doctor Strange, who later inherited the position of the Guardian of the New York Temple, could open a portal from Titan to Earth. It depends not only on the rich magical knowledge, but also on the powerful energy supply. It has been almost 2 years since I got the ring, and the surface has long been patinated. After thousands of teleportations, the proficiency has been rising. Lao Wang's use of the ring has long surpassed all the mages in Camotage except the Ancient One. As long as he wants, he can teleport to any place on Earth at any time. But he is not a mage. He didn't have the ability to analyze the teleportation runes of the hanging ring, so he couldn't rely on this fine quality ring to teleport on a planetary level. But this is not a problem. If it doesn't work at once, we can do it in batches. Lao Wang drew a circle, and a portal appeared. Watching Lao Wang disappear, Sky's expression was a little strange. I seem to have read in the junior high school textbook that Mars is actually quite cold and is a solid planet. The background of the portal is an endless vacuum. So, King, where did you teleport to? Don't worry, the battle will be over soon. Gorgon seemed to have confidence in his king and showed his fist as big as a casserole. It only takes 1 minute for his majesty the king to defeat your people. 1 minute passed. Gorgon's face was a little embarrassed and he gritted his teeth. 5 minutes, at most 5 minutes. 5 minutes passed. There was still no movement, and Gorgon looked at Tetanus helplessly. Big Dog, go and see what's going on. Big Dog shook his head quickly. What a joke. Don't you know the strength of Black Bolt? If he is fighting, I might be killed by the residual power as soon as I go there. Do you really want to eat dog meat? Everyone, we have nothing to do anyway. Karnak suddenly said, there are 3 of us here, and there are 3 of you there. Why don't we have a discussion? Without waiting for Sky and others to answer, he said with emotion, stillness is relative, movement is eternal, and the meaning of life lies in movement. We are waiting when we stand, and we are waiting when we fight, so why not use the time we spend waiting to fight? You know, for the more than 10 billion years of history of the entire universe, time is the least valuable thing, but for us who can only live for more than 100 years, time is more precious than anything else. Although we will all turn into ashes in the end, before that, we might as well ignite the fire of life, to warm this dark and cold universe. Here we go again. Gorgon held his forehead with his hand. Medusa shook her head helplessly, thinking to herself, Karnak, can you please not embarrass yourself in front of so many people? That makes sense. Whiplash chuckled, since I'm free anyway, I also want to see the abilities of the Atalan aliens. Sky, what do you think? Not interested. Sky shook his head, they are too weak. I'm only interested in Black Bolt. Gordon also shook his head, I can only teleport, not fight. And that dog looks very fierce, I can't beat it. Well, then there's nothing I can do. Whiplash stretched his muscles and looked at the opposite side. You all come together. Between the moon and Mars, orange-yellow light circles continue to appear one after another. A slightly fat figure walked out of one light circle and then disappeared from another. Lao Wang was also helpless. He tried it simply, under the condition of key activation and mental detection alone. The transmission distance of the hanging ring was limited to 30,000 kilometers at most. And from the moon to Mars, there are tens of millions of kilometers. In other words, he has to teleport 2 or 3,000 times. There is no doubt that Lao Wang's hand speed is fast, but it takes time to open the door fast. Even if it only takes 1 second at a time, it will take dozens of minutes in total. So, Black Bolt, wait for a while on Venus. Let me teleport for a while. Continue to teleport. In fact, if Lao Wang doesn't care about the cost, he can exchange teleportation from World of Warcraft. Although the mages in World of Warcraft are different from Kamataj, without the support of the Trinity of Vishanti and the endless supply of mana, everything can only be done by oneself, and it is almost impossible to open a cross-planet portal by one person. But there are exceptions. At least Medivh can definitely do it. And just in terms of the fierceness of magic knowledge and understanding of the essence of magic, any archmage or even high-level mage in Dalaran can kill all of Kamataj except the Supreme Mage. However, there has been no income for a long time recently, and Lao Wang is still a little hesitant. There is not much blood left in Azeroth, so we still have to spend it sparingly. So, let's do it, he thought while teleporting, thinking about himself now. The combination of the Pandaren monks and Kundlan martial arts gave him hope for further progress. Of course, before he returned to the peak, he had no ability to verify it, so he could only wait. His physical fitness continued to improve, equivalent to the humanoid ancient red dragon, slightly inferior to the Hulk and Thor, but with the addition of true energy, he was not at all inferior in a head-on confrontation. His cultivation was still at the master level, but he was only a step away from the Grand Master, and he would soon be able to break through. His equipment was not luxurious, but he also had 4 artifacts: Satorak's Crimson Belt, Infinity Gauntlet, Fist of the Heavens, and Fuzan Friend of the Wanderer. Ordinary epic equipment was meaningless, he only needed artifacts. There was not much blood of Azeroth left, and the dragon bones of the immortal dragon could not be moved. It was not enough to exchange for a suitable artifact. And there were not many suitable for him. If he wanted to increase his strength, he had to start with the Heart of Azeroth. So, a trace of spirit entered the Heart of Azeroth and called up the attribute interface. Chapter 320 Mimiran's Deconstruction Matrix, Part 3. As the supreme artifact jointly created by all the titans of the Pantheon, the Heart of Azeroth is even higher in level than Sargeras's blasting star sword and possesses the power bestowed by the titans. That is the power of order and the energy of the origin of the universe. Part of the original power of the Marvel Universe is condensed in the Infinity Stones, which are manifested as time, space, power, reality, soul, and mind. The origin of the universe in World of Warcraft is manifested as 6 basic energies, the arcane representing order, the fell energy representing chaos, the undead representing death, the nature representing life, the holy light representing light, and the shadow representing darkness. And the 5 elements that make up all things in the universe, earth, fire, water, wind, and the 5th element soul. The titans are the representatives of order and the controllers of the arcane. Infinite arcane energy flows in the body of each titan. Using the power of arcane and order, the titans have mastered a wider range of the original power of the universe. Time, space, life, death, holy light, even fell energy and shadow. And all of this is given to the Heart of Azeroth. Its status in the world of Warcraft is equivalent to that of the 6 Infinity Stones in the Marvel world. Such a powerful artifact naturally cannot have only a little power. So far, the Heart of Azeroth has only activated one ability, Eternal Favor of Azeroth. You who wear it will breathe and share the same fate with Azeroth. This ability is of course very strong. Not only does it significantly improve its own strength, but it can also improve the abilities of other equipment, making the grade of all legendary equipment a step higher. But it is not enough. It belongs to the gift of Titan Azeroth. So, what about other titans? Lao Wang browsed carefully. This supreme artifact has at least dozens of functions waiting to be activated, and each one requires a large amount of Azeroth's blood. The functions directly related to other titans cannot be activated at present, but the slightly worse functions are enough. These are the powers of the Titan Guardians. In order to protect the newborn Titan Azeroth, the Pantheon created the Titan Guardians and gave them part of their power. These Titan Guardians are of the same lineage as their creators, so when making the Heart of Azeroth, some less powerful functions were also named after them, such as Mimiran's Deconstruction Matrix. Mimiran's Wisdom deconstructs and replicates any magic/technological items, and optimizes and reconstructs them to a certain extent. This function consumes Titan energy. The more complex and technologically advanced the target item is, the more Titan energy it consumes. Titan Norgannon is the most intelligent being in World of Warcraft and the most powerful wizard in the entire universe. His wisdom is not only reflected in the magic level, but also in the technological level. He represents the top technological level in World of Warcraft. His inventions and creations even far exceed the 3 major empires of the Marvel Universe. Whether it is the Norgannon Disk, the Forge of Origin, or the Forge of Will, the technological content is ahead of the Earth by tens of thousands of years. A small platinum disk can actually record the evolution of the entire planet Azeroth for countless tens of thousands of years. This technology is incredible. And this is just a corner of Norgannon's knowledge and technology. The Heart of Azeroth itself is the crystallization of all Norgannon's knowledge. In the ancient Dark Empire, when Norgannon created Mimiran, he gave him the ability to invent and create, and this ability is also reflected in the Heart of Azeroth. This is a very powerful ability. Just to activate it, you need 100 grams of blood of Azeroth. The structure and reconstruction of any object requires a lot of Titan energy, and the source of this Titan energy is also the blood of Azeroth. There is no doubt, this is a very powerful ability, and it is also a bottomless pit of burning blood. Although it is named Mimiran, this ability is actually given by Norgannon himself. Its upper limit is far beyond Mimiran himself. Although it may not be able to deconstruct the Infinity Stones, any artifact below it, even including the Spear of Eternity and Thor's Hammer, is probably not a problem. You know, one of the creators of the Furnace of Will is Mimiran. The furnace that can shape the will of the newborn titans and even create real life is far from being comparable to the Spear of Eternity. Activate. 100 grams of blood of Azeroth disappeared, and Lao Wang's inventory was only in the single digits. The azure energy flowed on the Heart of Azeroth, and the soft light illuminated Lao Wang. He was suspended in the vacuum between the two planets, raised his left hand, and spread his 5 fingers. The Titan energy immediately turned into a scanning ray and projected onto the hanging ring. The blood of Azeroth was quickly consumed, and the congested spherical space returned to its original state, and soon only a thin layer was left. The light disappeared, and the gentle voice of the young lady sounded, and lines of text appeared on the retina. Analysis completed. This item is a fine quality magic equipment, with a total of 3825 defects. Do you want to optimize and reconstruct it? Yes. The hanging ring disappeared and floated in the inner space of the Heart of Azeroth. Then, under the action of the azure traction beam, it floated into the surrounding void, and the last of the blood of Azeroth disappeared. Optimization and reconstruction completed. The ring has been integrated into the Heart of Azeroth, and has become a part of the Heart of Azeroth. New functions of the Heart of Azeroth. Teleportation. Portal. Teleportation. Channel the Titan energy to teleport the wearer and the items he carries, including people, to any place he wants to go. The place must be well understood, otherwise unpredictable accidents will occur. Portal. Channel the Titan energy to open a portal of a specified size and a specified destination. Lao Wang's eyes lit up. That's more like it. A supreme artifact doesn't even have the function of teleportation. How embarrassing. So it's waiting here. As for the destination, Lao Wang looked at Mars, and the introduction of teleportation emerged in his mind. One of the items was clearly written. The place must be well understood, otherwise unpredictable accidents will occur. Accident? I don't know what kind of accident it is. Just thinking about it, the teleportation is activated. In the bright spell aura, Lao Wang disappeared. Standing on the cold rock, Black Bolt has been very calm. Looking around, there is a sandy yellow and dark red. The radius of Mars is 53% of the Earth. The mass is 11% of the Earth. The surface gravity acceleration is 38% of the Earth. The surface atmospheric pressure is 1% of the Earth. And the rotation period and revolution period are almost exactly the same as the Earth. This is a very light planet, and it is even somewhat similar to the moon in all aspects. It is also one of Attilan's alternative planets. If there is a problem with the moon and there is no way to return to the Earth, then Attilan is likely to set sail again, not hundreds of millions of kilometers away, to come here to rebuild their homes. Black Bolt knows much more about everything here than the people on Earth. The atmospheric pressure of Mars is too low, and the smaller gravity cannot retain too much air, and there is not much oxygen. It is difficult to survive here, but it is not a problem for him. In fact, he can survive, even if he is thrown into space. By manipulating electromagnetic energy, he can strengthen his body to the point where he does not need oxygen, and he can also extract oxygen molecules from the atmosphere and even space to ensure breathing. The environment itself has a great impact on the competition here. As long as you can come here, it is enough to prove your strength. In his opinion, the young man who calls himself director of the Godstick should have some strength. However, he waited for almost 10 minutes, but there was still no movement. Could it be that he didn't dare to come? Or he failed to transmit, and something went wrong? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 321 The Strongest Destructive Power. Black Bolt remained calm. Nothing will happen on the moon, otherwise Big Dog Tetanus would come to find him. Maybe this is the opponent's tactic. He deliberately didn't come to wear out his patience. Then he was wrong. He didn't say a word for so many years. Black Bolt dared not say anything else, but when it comes to patience, he is no worse than anyone else. Since you want to fight, then fight. The battlefield is Mars, but the battle has already started. When we were still on the moon, Black Bolt continued to wait, and suddenly he was slightly stunned. A very powerful life form suddenly appeared. The extremely harsh environment makes it impossible for Mars to give birth to higher life. So now I can sense the life characteristics. There is only one possibility. That person is here. The question is, Why does it seem to be deep underground? Could it be? This is also a tactic? Black Bolt figured it out in an instant. Yes, tactics. Teleport directly to the deep underground under his feet. Use a long wait to wear out his patience, and then when he is always on guard, attack from the most unlikely place, and in the most unexpected way. Despicable? Shameless? Dirty? No, no. There is no such thing in a real battle. Everything is for the ultimate victory. I can only say that the other party is really smart, but you underestimate me too much. Black Bolt took a deep breath and lowered his head. Come out. He suddenly spoke. An invisible shockwave spit out from his mouth, as powerful as thunder and lightning, with extremely huge energy and pure energy. It was very small at first, and then it became bigger and bigger, like an inverted cone, aimed at Lao Wang deep underground. The energy was overwhelming like the Khian Tang River tide, like a surging tide breaking through the wall of life in the Pacific Ocean, carrying the power of destroying everything, and going straight into the depths of the underground. In the terrifying fluctuations, there was pure and condensed electromagnetic energy, which completely destroyed everything along the way, and turned it into dust, soil, rocks, everything. Black Bolt did not hold back. There was no question of respect or disrespect. He had only one goal, to defeat the other party, with the greatest advantage possible, so that he could take the initiative in the subsequent negotiations. As for whether the other party would be killed directly, this was not within his consideration. He was the real king. If that charlatan director can't even withstand such a conventional attack, then you will pay the price of your life for your offense against Attilan. You asked for it. After a roar, Black Bolt immediately manipulated electromagnetic energy to sense the changes deep underground and flew high to prevent the opponent's sneak attack. The electromagnetic energy floating in the surrounding environment continued to flow into the body to replenish the consumption. At this time a set of golden dragons suddenly flew out of the earth that had turned into powder. It was an energy dragon, composed of some extremely special energy, which seemed to be related to the energy of life itself, and the energy at the soul level. It was a fusion of two energies, very powerful and very spiritual. It bared its fangs and claws, like a real oriental dragon. Black Bolt did not dare to be careless. Although he had never been to Earth, he had read records about Kunlun in ancient books. In a few words, the immortal Iron Fist was mentioned, and the dragon Shaoleo was also mentioned. Is this the true power of the immortal Iron Fist? It seems to be even more powerful than the legend. The golden dragon was very fast, and Black Bolt knew that it was impossible to escape the opponent's pursuit with his own flying speed, and there was no need. Then, break. Another shockwave hit the golden dragon in a flash. The same level of energy collided, golden light flashed, the golden dragon shattered, and the shockwave continued to go down, turning a larger area into powder. A large amount of dust filled the sky, covering everything around. After 2 consecutive attacks, he should be uncomfortable, right? Black Bolt breathed a sigh of relief. That golden dragon should be the opponent's killer move. It seems that the opponent's strength is not as terrible as imagined. As soon as this thought came up, Black Bolt felt something was wrong. The threat of death cast a shadow on his soul. He sensed a strange energy body, which seemed to be a soul. Very powerful, unprecedentedly powerful, overlooking him like a god, suddenly appearing and disappearing suddenly. A flesh palm was attached to his back. The energy exactly the same as that of the golden dragon invaded the body, breaking the automatic defense system of electromagnetic energy, and destroying the vitality of the body. Boom. Black Bolt fell from the sky and smashed a huge deep pit on the surface of Mars. The slightly fat voice came down. Black Bolt turned around, and opened his mouth. Get out. The dust turned into a hurricane, and flew into the sky in the envelopment of electromagnetic energy. The golden light condensed, and turned into a big bell, to protect the whole body. Lao Wang was repelled by a distance far exceeding 100 tons, and flew into the sky. Black Bolt flew out of the deep pit and panted heavily. My back hurts. From his eyes to his expression, his face was full of solemnity. His physique is much stronger than all other aliens. His flesh alone can generate tens of tons of huge force, not to mention the continuous strengthening of electromagnetic energy. He is confident that, even if he is in the center of a nuclear explosion, He can resist it. However, he was still injured by the opponent. Although it was a sneak attack, the opponent's strength has been revealed. And his 3 pseudosonic attacks also did not seriously injure the opponent. What does this mean? Our strengths should be similar. Sure enough, they are strong enemies. The two fought again. Both are experts in manipulating energy, and both are kings whose bodies are close to immortality. However, less than a minute later, Black Bolt began to complain bitterly. His electromagnetic attacks became weaker and weaker. He no longer used remote sonic waves, but kept the electromagnetic energy in his body to ensure the strengthening of his body, and confronted Lao Wang head on. Haha, it turns out that he is just a 3-pronged axe. Lao Wang sneered. Many people boast about how strong Black Bolt is, punching Thanos and kicking Green Sorrow, but in fact, he is just that strong. Is he strong? Of course he is strong. His full strength attack is definitely equivalent to a nuclear bomb, and this is not his limit. As time goes by, he becomes more and more proficient in controlling his abilities and constantly develops other ways to use electromagnetic energy, and his strength will slowly increase. But he also has a fatal weakness. Where does this electromagnetic energy come from? He constantly absorbs it from the outside world. Usually, he absorbs electromagnetic energy from the external environment, accumulates it in his body cells, and then when needed, he launches it in the form of sonic waves, unexpectedly, and makes a splash. For those who don't know him, it's really scary, and they will judge his strength based on his own strength. Yes, a Black Bolt who can release the power of a nuclear bomb explosion at any time can be the king of the entire universe. After all, the speed of opening his mouth is hundreds or thousands of times faster than the speed at which Thor condenses a large amount of lightning. With such strength, neither the Hulk nor Thor can compete. In terms of peak attack power, he is indeed stronger than the Hulk and Thor at this stage, much stronger. However, what if the electromagnetic energy in the body is released? It takes time to absorb electromagnetic energy. The current Black Bolt, or the Black Bolt of this universe, is far from as strong as imagined, but not weak either. He is definitely at the level of Thor and the Hulk. The two continued to fight. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. Finally, after resisting Lao Wang's fist again, Black Bolt landed on a hill 100 meters away, breathing heavily. He was in a bad situation. The long battle made his electromagnetic energy consumption too fast, and there was no time to replenish it. Fortunately, the opponent's special energy is also consumed very quickly, and this aspect is roughly the same. The opponent's physical fitness is also similar to his own, but in terms of combat skills, he is obviously not as good as the opponent. It takes thousands or tens of thousands of battles to hone such terrible combat skills. Black Bolt sighed inwardly. The opponent has forced him into this state without even using those mysterious spiritual means. So why fight? I lost. He tried his best to control his mouth shape and lower his voice, causing another electromagnetic storm. Chapter 322 How can I negotiate? Lao Wang stopped and said with a smile, in fact, if you exploded at the beginning and released the electromagnetic energy of your whole body, I couldn't bear it either. This is the truth. So far, except for Odin and Ancient One who didn't take action seriously, no one can compare to Black Bolt in terms of the strongest destructive power, including Thor and Hulk. It's worthy of praise. Black Bolt really wants to explode with all his strength. Unless his cultivation is further improved and reaches the level of Grandmaster, he really can't bear it. But you can avoid it. At that time, my electromagnetic energy is exhausted, and I will be defeated faster. Black Bolt's emotions did not fluctuate much, and his concentration was very strong. He was born to be a king, magnificent and generous, and willing to accept defeat. Director Wang, we should talk. Even Director Wang, who is so powerful, is afraid of Thanos, and has to find allies. How strong is Thanos? Is he stronger than the woman who forced the accusation group fleet back by herself? For the sake of the tribe, we can only join forces. The old king smiled and said, Bad King, can you give me a ride? Let Tetanus take me for a ride? The teleportation function of the Heart of Azeroth consumes Titan energy, which in the final analysis, consumes the blood of Azeroth. There is not much to begin with, so the more you can save, the better. I don't know when I can get it next time. Black Bolt's expression froze. He suddenly thought of a question. I don't think I asked Tetanus to pick me up. It probably doesn't dare to come and pick me up casually, fearing that it will be killed by the aftermath of the battle. With hundreds of millions of kilometers between us, my telepathy is not strong enough, and I can't get in touch with Medusa. In other words, I can't seem to go back. It's not that I can't go back. By manipulating electromagnetic energy, I can still fly directly there and in space. As long as I continue to manipulate electromagnetic energy, the flight speed will become faster and faster if there is no resistance. But no matter how fast it is, it takes time. You can't really let me fly for 10 days or half a month to get back to the moon. It's a bit embarrassing. The king has to have face. Thinking of this, Black Bolt looked at the old king. The old king sighed and understood. Okay, I'll take you. He stretched out his left hand and placed it on Black Bolt's shoulder. A flash of magic flashed, and a lot of Azeroth's blood was consumed. The two disappeared. The magic flash flashed again, and the two came to Attilan. Something seems to be wrong. Lao Wang looked around. Sky was standing not far away, seemingly observing Attilan, but he was not interested and was quite bored. Gordon was motionless like a wooden man and only looked over here when he and Black Bolt appeared. On the other side, Gorgon lay on the ground with his back facing the sky, his eyes looking at the sky, and the whole person seemed to be not well. Karnak stood beside him, not knowing what he was thinking, sweating profusely. Medusa's fiery red hair flew all over the sky and then turned into shattered hair all over the sky. The big dog Tetanus was elusive, and the continuous telepathic transmission was suddenly hit by a fist. The bridge of his nose seemed to be broken, and a lot of blood flowed. Among all the people, Whiplash was no longer the psychiatrist he used to be, but a monster over 2 meters tall. Black Bolt frowned. He sensed extremely terrifying energy from Whiplash, and it was also very complex energy, with several types in total. He could actually manipulate different energies at the same time, even electromagnetic energy. This alien, it was terrifying. What happened? Black Bolt flew to Medusa's side and held her hand. Karnak proposed a fair 3v3 battle. Medusa said helplessly, originally, it was me, Karnak, and Gorgon who fought against the other side, but the other side only had Whiplash. Later we couldn't beat them, and Big Dog also joined, but we still couldn't beat them. Black Bolt understood. He glanced at them, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Gorgon's strength was still good, otherwise he wouldn't have been the leader of the Royal Guard, although most of the reason was related to his identity. He was a member of the royal family, my cousin. He was beaten like this. Medusa's strength was originally very average, and the other side should have held back, but just destroyed a lot of hair. Karnak. Alas. He obviously didn't make a move. That guy always planned before he acted. Before he made a move, he would use his extremely high IQ and intuition to analyze the results of each move and choose the one that would definitely win. But it was obvious that no matter how he analyzed, the result was failure. So until his companions were abused, he still didn't make a move. How long do you plan to think about it, philosopher? As for Big Dog Tetanus, his most powerful ability is teleportation. His physique is pretty good, his teeth are very good, and he can even chew titanium alloy, but if he really confronts head on, he probably can't even beat Karnak. Teleportation also takes time, so it's normal to be abused. At this moment, Black Bolt felt a strong sense of frustration. It's okay that I can't beat the immortal Iron Fist, but he at least gave me face, didn't use mental attacks, and stopped at the critical moment. What about you? 4 people were abused by 1 person. How can I talk about this next? Big Dog, take them to treatment. Sensing Black Bolt's telepathy, Medusa ordered. Then she looked at Lao Wang. Director Wang, welcome to Attilan. The architecture of the Kree is just like this race. Harsh, iron-blooded, cruel, ruthless, practical, and not fond of exaggeration. From a surface civilization ruled by the Skrulls, it has become one of the 3 most powerful empires in the universe. It not only controls countless galaxies across a vast territory, but also masters a variety of black technologies, and has the ability to travel across galaxies. The iron-blooded policies and racism of the Kree Empire are really awesome. Of course, for Lao Wang, such a race is really boring. Although the Kree under the rule of the Supreme Wisdom have a cohesion far beyond that of China on the surface, and can gather the power of the whole country to do anything, they are also far inferior to China. The consistency of thought and the high degree of unity of behavior have made the Kree lose more possibilities. The progress of civilization depends not only on careful calculation step by step, but also on mutations and uncontrollability. Life is essentially uncontrollable. Quantum mechanics has long explained this point. The first impulse does not need to exist. Everything in the universe is not completely determined from the moment of the Big Bang. Chaos and the unknown are the eternal driving force of civilization development. The practices of the Kree Empire have stifled the diversity of civilization. Such a civilization, although it has extremely strong comprehensive national strength, is of little benefit to the development of individuals, so that there are no particularly strong individuals in the entire Kree Empire. Captain Marvel is completely an accident. Ronan the Accuser is already the most powerful existence. However, before obtaining the power gem, such existence is far less powerful than the 5 black generals under Thanos. One of the 3 major empires in the universe. What a glorious title. But the individual strength is not even comparable to the slightly inferior Zen and Overcore and Asgard. In terms of top combat power, it is not even comparable to the Earth and the inferior Inhumans created by their own hands. What a irony. Attilan is the birthplace of the Inhumans, and everything here continues the style of the Kree. The Inhumans regime is between the Kree and the Earthlings, similar to a constitutional monarchy. Although the king and queen are nominally the highest leaders, the greatest power is in the hands of the Gene Council. The Gene Council even has the power to dismiss the king. Because of the restrictions of the environment and the Terrigen Mist, and probably from the perspective of genetic defects, Attilan's rule is somewhat bloody and cruel. Genetic optimization and racial continuation are the highest principles of Attilan. Only better genes are qualified to continue, so that more perfect offspring can be born. Many people are destined to be inferior from the beginning, and some have become inferior from the Terrigen mutation ceremony. There is no possibility of turning over. From some perspectives, Attilan is as cold-blooded and ruthless as the Kree Empire. The old king walked along the way. He saw many strange aliens. The inferiors did not have the right to participate in the Terrigen mutation ceremony, and those who were lucky enough to participate in the ceremony, if they did not have awakening abilities, or awakened worse abilities, would fall overnight, and be driven to the outskirts of the city or even outside the city. The Kree's experiments gave the aliens endless possibilities, which were both good and bad. Every alien had genetic defects, and some defects were too obvious and even cumbersome. Lao Wang even saw an Inhuman covered in keratin, unable to move. The thick keratin hindered his movements. What use is there for such an Inhuman? The Kree people thought that the Inhumans were failed experiments, which was actually true. The genes of this race need to be improved, but it is almost impossible to improve them. The way forward is blocked. Following Black Bolt, Lao Wang and others came to the King's Hall. Chapter 323 Terrigen Mutation Ritual, Part 1. At this moment, many people have gathered in the King's Hall. Some of them are members of the royal family, including Maximus, who is always ready to rebel, and of course members of the Gene Council. These people looked at the old king with a scrutinizing attitude, with many meanings in their eyes. There is vigilance, fear, expectation, and doubt. It is very complicated, but it is not difficult for the old king to judge. Everyone's blood flow speed, heart rate, and muscle twitch are all codes for interpreting personal emotions. As long as these codes are mastered, no matter how you disguise yourself, it is meaningless, and no appearance can confuse the old king. What he sees is not the images and texts presented, but the underlying programs hidden behind the images and texts. Your Majesty. Maximus sat on the steps not far away and snorted coldly. Attilan does not welcome outsiders, not to mention that we are about to hold the Terrigen mutation ceremony, and we cannot let outsiders be present. The old king looked at this man seriously. Every family has its own problems, and no country or civilization is exception. Thor has a troublesome younger brother, and the next generation of Black Panther also has a relative who wants to usurp the throne. Maximus is Black Bolt's younger brother. The death of Black Bolt's parents seems to be related to him. This guy plans a rebellion every once in a while, and he fails every time. He looks quite happy. Maybe this is a daily life of a naughty child. Black Bolt and the Gene Council don't kill him. I don't know if it's because of blood relationship or other considerations. Every time he rebels, many people will die. In order to give birth to more and better offspring as much as possible, Attilan has no family planning policy, and people live longer than people on Earth, so theoretically the population will continue to increase. The problem is that Attilan is so small that it can only support so many people. What to do? Comrade Thanos, the director of the Universal Family Planning Office, came up with a good idea: kill people. You have a lot of people, so if you kill half of them, there will be fewer people. The problem is that this method only treats the symptoms and not the root cause. As long as the birth policy is relaxed and people have children as they please, the population will double in a few decades. Thanos' method has fundamental problems. Attilan is different. We can be gentler on the surface, not so cruel. There is no need to kill half of them at once, which will cause chaos. Isn't it enough to kill those who are disobedient? You know, because of the population structure, Attilan's social contradictions are more intense than most countries on the earth. The dissatisfaction of the lower class is increasing day by day. The population is also dozens or hundreds of times that of the upper class, and some awakened people have also been born. If they really rebel together and unexpectedly, the upper class will not be able to suppress it. This is simple. Isn't it that someone always wants to make trouble? Then make trouble. Every time you take the opportunity to kill those active element who follow the crowd, not only will it solve the problem of overpopulation, but it will also be a warning to the monkeys. How good is that? Lao Wang doesn't know whether the top leaders of Attilan think so. In his opinion, it's probably true. In fact, from the national level, the actions of the royal family and the Gene Council are not unreasonable. But this kind of reason is destined not to be accepted by the public, because the public is the victim. Lao Wang didn't even look at Maximus. This guy who has always pretended to be an ordinary person actually has superpowers and telepathy. He can enter, paralyze or even control other people's minds, implant memories or make the target lose memory for a short time, and communicate with other people through telepathy. This is a relatively common ability. There are at least 80 people with this ability in Marvel. Phoenix Girl and Professor X are the more powerful ones among them, and Maximus is probably one of the weakest. And this guy's telepathic ability is still a big problem. His mental state is unstable, so his supernatural powers are not very good. Simply put, at the level of Inhumans, he is a useless person with no ability. Of course, he is still one of the most remarkable scientists in Attilan. Even if he is thrown on the earth with a population of 7 billion, he can barely be regarded as a figure, probably a little Princess Loki weakened by end times. Such a little villain. Lao Wang doesn't even bother to pay attention to him. Compared with Maximus, Lao Wang is more interested in others. As soon as Maximus said this, the faces of others changed instantly. Some people regarded him as an ignorant bear child, but some people wanted to take the opportunity to do something and nodded silently. Lao Wang just watched a joke. Who is the one who is embarrassed by showing the disunity within your royal family in front of an outsider like me? Maximus doesn't understand this principle, but Black Bolt cannot fail to understand it. Sure enough, as soon as the voice fell, Medusa, who had been communicating with Black Bolt in mind, suddenly turned cold. Director Wang is a friend of Attilan, and the 3 people who came with him are all Inhumans, are people on Earth. What's the problem with the king inviting them to visit? While speaking, Medusa's fiery red hair flew all over the sky, like a spirit snake. Humph. I can't handle the whip, and I can't handle you, a loser? Maximus wanted to say something else, but Konak, who realized that something was wrong, and was extremely loyal to Black Bolt, immediately stepped forward and said, "Time is life, Maximus. We don't have time to waste here. The Terrigen mutation ceremony still needs to be presided over by the king and queen, and if I remember correctly, the princess will also participate in the ceremony this time." As soon as these words came out, Maximus was immediately choked back. Yes, this matter is related to the little princess that the king and queen love the most. If the mutation ceremony is really disrupted, it probably won't be as simple as a reprimand. What if they are locked up in a small dark room? Maximus shut up decisively. Medusa looked at Lao Wang. Director Wang, the Earth still uses the ancient obelisk absorption method, right? Lao Wang smiled and gave enough face. Yes. Medusa smiled slightly. Attilan is willing to express our sincerity and invite you to watch our Terrigen mutation ceremony. Please. Lao Wang nodded. A group of people soon came to the location of the Gene Council. Even in Attilan, which has a large number of Terrigen crystals, there are not too many Terrigen mutation ceremonies every year, and there are only 2 or 3 people each time, and sometimes there is only one person. A very simple calculation can express everything. The total population of Attilan is about 100,000, of which the excellent genes who are qualified to participate in the Terrigen mutation ceremony are about 1%. That is, 1,000. The average life expectancy of the aliens is over 100 years old. Therefore, no more than 10 people participate in the mutation ceremony every year. Even if it is held once every 3 months, there are only 2 or 3 people at a time. Of course, Attilan's mutation ceremony uses a whole Terrigen crystal each time, which can ensure that the alien genes in each person's body are fully activated. Even if it cannot absorb all, Attilan has a way to recycle it, so there will be no waste. This time, there are 3 people participating in the mutation ceremony, 2 women and 1 man. The 3 of them walked into the ceremony room at the same time. Chapter 324, Natural Born Elemental Mage, Part 2. The members of the parliament brought out a high-tech box filled with Terrigen crystals. There were at least hundreds of them. The old king was jealous and had to resist the urge to grab them all. In terms of value alone, all the Terrigen crystals in Attilan combined are probably not less than all the vibranium in Wakanda. After all, it only takes 1 Black Bolt to defeat the entire Wakanda. Black Bolt stretched out his right hand with his palm facing up. Medusa placed a piece of black cloth on his palm, and then Karnak took out 3 crystals and placed them on top. Then, the 3 crystals were placed on a device on the wall of the room. The room was transparent and the changes inside could be clearly seen. Light blue mist filled the air and was then absorbed by the 3 people. Without the black stone covering the whole body, the mutation was carried out in a relatively gentle way. Only 3 minutes later, the 3 people walked out of the room one by one. I hope they are stronger than our generation. Karnak said softly. Every new Terrigen mutant is a new hope. The genes of the Inhumans are perfected from generation to generation, and this is the future of the entire race. Come on, show us what you can do, Medusa said. The girl on the far left closed her eyes, as if sensing something. Half a minute later, her body was covered in thick flames, and even her hair turned fiery red, and all her clothes were burned. Even her body shape was changing. She was taller, more delicate, and her skin was more delicate and smooth. Her eyes glowed like rubies. A minute later, the flames disappeared, and the girl returned to her original state. Regardless of gender, everyone's eyes were looking at the girl's body, without desire, only admiration. Fire controller. Karnak nodded. It's a very ordinary ability, but her control ability is very strong, surpassing all the arsonists in Attilan's history, a total of 183. She absorbed 2/5 of the Terrigen crystal. Our gene optimization plan is fine. Everything is for the Inhumans. For Attilan. A female scientist handed over a set of clothes. Put it on. The girl put on the clothes and was quickly taken away for further testing and training to help her better control her superpowers. Your turn. Karnak looked at the only boy. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The boy didn't move. He became more and more nervous and finally heard a sigh. The mutation failed. Karnak's face was cold. Maximus, I leave it to you. The Terrigen mine is short of people, and he has a good physique and is very suitable. Maximus snorted. The boy's face suddenly changed. The mine is dirty and tiring, and I heard that the mortality rate is very high. Is this my future? His face was grey, but he had no idea of resisting or fighting. Although his parents were both superior people with excellent genes, this could not change his future. The rules of the game in Attilan have lasted for thousands of years, and no one can change it. Even the king cannot change it. In the face of the genetic optimization of the entire race, everyone is small and insignificant. The wheels of the aliens rolled forward, and I don't know how many losers were crushed to death. He was not the only one. There were 3 mutants, and only one was left, a very beautiful girl, wearing a goose yellow dress. She looked 1 or 2 years younger than Sky, and should have just reached adulthood, which was lovable. Crystal, it's your turn, my sister. Medusa whispered, don't be afraid, show your ability. Her body trembled slightly, a little nervous. Crystal is her only sister. Their branch is one of the most distinguished families in Attilan, second only to the royal family. Since she was born, she was destined to be the wife of Black Bolt, the Queen of Attilan. Only the best genes combined with the best genes can give birth to more perfect offspring. And her sister is naturally the little princess of Attilan, loved by everyone, and the favorite little master of the big dog Tetanus. Tetanus listens to her the most, even to Black Bolt. But no matter how good the genes are, there is a possibility of failure in mutation. Even if the mutation is successful, the ability obtained may be very bad. Although Crystal has a special status, and will not be sent to the outer city or outside the city without superpowers, her status will be very low, just like Maximus. She doesn't want this. I can do it, sister. Crystal smiled at Medusa and closed her eyes. Everyone is looking forward to it. Suddenly, the wind started. A weak airflow lingered in the whole hall, and fine sand and dust appeared in the wind. The airflow became stronger and stronger, and the sand and dust became more and more, and soon formed a small tornado. Then, the air became dry, and all the moisture was condensed into a ball, a small water ball, and then began to change at a very fast speed, kneading into all kinds of strange shapes. Balls of flames appeared and floated around Crystal. The temperature was very high, even higher than the previous fire controller. At the same time, Crystal's body also changed. Her figure became taller and slender, and a section of her golden hair near her ears suddenly turned black. A minute later, all the strange phenomena disappeared, and Crystal opened her eyes. Elemental manipulation? Maxim muttered to himself. Earth, fire, water, and wind. Can you manipulate 4 elements? Individual elemental powers are very common, with a low starting point and high potential. The weakest can only make a small flame like a candle, and the strongest can theoretically freeze the entire universe. The total number of elemental power users in Attilan's history is at least 800, if not 1,000. But those who can manipulate 2 element can be counted on 10 fingers. There is not even one person who can manipulate 3 element, not to mention 4. A whole crystal. Crystal used up a whole crystal. Someone exclaimed. Everyone's face changed again. The amount of Terrigen crystal used determines the potential of the Inhumans to a certain extent. So far, only Black Bolt has used up a whole crystal, reaching the limit. Now there is a second one. Crystal, tell me if you are uncomfortable? Medusa asked hurriedly. Can't speak. Poor hearing? Prone to dizziness? Too high or too low body temperature? She listed several in a row, all of which are genetic defects of the Inhumans. Every Inhuman has genetic defects, even Black Bolt is no exception. Black Bolt cannot speak, and whenever he speaks, he will emit pseudo-sound waves, and this is not a serious genetic defect. The kind of big dog Tetanus is really miserable. In the whole Attilan, she is the one with the least obvious genetic defects. She has excellent genes second only to Black Bolt. She has absorbed nearly a whole Terrigen crystal. Except for the defect that all Inhumans have, low immunity. She has no genetic defects. But she is also miserable. Her superpowers are too weak, which is inconsistent with her genetic level. Generally speaking, under the same genetic conditions, the stronger the superpower, the greater the defect, just like Big Dog Tetanus. Crystal's abilities are so strong. Could it be that her flaws are bigger than Black Bolt's? It seems. I don't have any of the problems you mentioned, sister. Crystal looked confused. Where are the genetic flaws? Why do I feel like I'm a normal person? Several members of the Gene Council looked at each other. Doesn't Crystal have any special genetic flaws? Has the biggest problem of the Inhumans for thousands of years been solved? This is the future of Attilan, the future of the Inhumans. Karnak raised his head 45 degrees and sighed. The wheel of fate rolls forward, and the future of the race is before us. Our appearance was an accident, and the discovery of the Terrigen crystal was an accident among accidents. The Kree abandoned us, but we didn't abandon ourselves. Although the universe will eventually return to darkness and no one will be spared before the judgment comes, we still have to live as wonderfully as possible. Black Bolt glanced at him. Karnak quickly shut up. Crystal. Medusa walked over and held the little princess hand. Congratulations. Crystal nodded heavily, her face full of joy and full of yearning for a better future. Just then, accompanied by a round of applause, a voice rang out, a very special ability. It was Lao Wang. He looked at the crystal, as if he were looking at a work of art. TSK, a natural elemental mage, or a natural shaman. Chapter 325. Can you help me? Part 1. He was a little uncertain, not knowing what the crystal's power was in essence. Both mages and shamans can summon element, but their essences are different. Mages use arcane energy as their foundation, and use arcane energy to summon element and shape them, thus turning them into elemental spells one after another. Frostbolt, Fireball, Blizzard, summon water elemental. Shamans do not have as much magical knowledge as mages, but they use prayers and ways of getting along to determine the favor of the element and call for help from the element when needed. Of course, they may also ignore you. The strength of a mage is often related to knowledge, and the older they are, the stronger they are. The power of a shaman depends on relationships, and the better the relationship with the element, the stronger they are. What kind of crystal is it? Maybe neither. Maybe it's a combination of the two. May the arcane be with you, and may Mother Earth fool you. Amen. Director Wang, the one next to you is also very powerful. If I'm not mistaken, she also absorbed a whole Terrigen crystal, or a whole obelisk. Medusa was in a good mood, and asked by the way. Seeing Lao Wang nod, she was slightly stunned. Originally, she just said it casually, on the one hand, to praise the other party. On the other hand, she was also showing off. Look at our Attilan. 2 of the strongest Inhumans have appeared. Sky didn't make a move. She didn't know what Sky was like. She could only guess, based on his position. Sky should be the strongest among the 3 Earth Inhumans. As for how strong he is, it's hard to say. Although she has tried her best to raise her in her mind, she never thought that Sky could be as strong as Black Bolt. I didn't expect it to be true. A mental wave from Black Bolt entered her mind, and Medusa quickly adjusted her expression and said with emotion, and she, like Crystal, doesn't seem to have any genetic defects. This is amazing. Earth actually has a perfect Inhuman. This was a bit sour. Even the muscle-brained Gorgon could hear it. Lao Wang and Sky looked at each other and shook their heads. No, you are wrong. Medusa was slightly stunned, not understanding where she was wrong. There is no perfect Inhuman. Sky also has a genetic defect. Her power is Shockwave, which has extremely high requirements on the body. If I hadn't found a way to strengthen her physique, she would have caused some damage to her body every time she used her power. Old Wang smiled and looked at Crystal. As for Miss Crystal, she actually has a genetic defect, and it may be more serious than you think. What defect? Medusa asked hurriedly. Old Wang said lightly. Her immunity is very poor. Very poor. Poor immunity? Medusa and Black Bolt looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. She smiled and said, Director Wang, you may not understand on Earth. Poor immunity is a common feature of all Inhumans. The Inhumans on Earth, because they have been in an unhealthy environment for a long time, have slowly adapted for thousands of years, and their immunity must be better than ours, but in fact it is not much better. That is, especially the Inhumans of China. They even have the periodic table in their bodies. Jirang has no genetic defects, and has a good immunity. Old Wang shook his head. Queen, you may not understand what I mean. Medusa frowned slightly. I mean her immunity is very poor, not bad. Lao Wang emphasized, her immunity is worse than everyone else's. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned, and their faces changed fundamentally. Low immune system is a common feature of all aliens. The combination of alien genes and human genes has increased many variables, making the genes of aliens have infinite possibilities, but it also makes the genes conflicting and imperfect, so almost every alien has the problem of low immunity. Even Gorgon, who is as strong as a sheep, and Karnak, who has a stronger physical fitness than Captain America, have weaker immunity than ordinary Earthlings. They are prone to colds and flu, and they can be infected with viruses and die if they are not careful. The Earth is very dangerous, and you need to be careful when traveling. According to ancient records, there are not too many aliens who died from epidemics on Earth. Colds are the biggest natural enemy of aliens. The reason why the aliens moved to the moon was partly because of the pressure from the Earthlings, and partly to avoid the complex environment on Earth. The moon is good, there is no atmosphere, and viruses can't survive. How clean it is. Crystal's immunity is actually worse than all aliens. In other words, if she goes to a more complicated and dirty environment, she might die directly. When she thought of this, Crystal's face was not very good. Director Wang, are you sure? Medusa asked. You can try. Lao Wang shrugged. Of course it's not difficult. Inhumans can get sick, and Attilan also has a hospital. Although there are various cleaning methods, there are still more viruses in the hospital than in other places. Crystal just went to the hospital for a walk, and stayed there for less than 10 minutes, before being carried out. Seeing that she was breathing less and breathing more, Medusa was anxious. This was not like this before. How come her health is worse after the mutation? A group of medical staff were in a panic, fearing that the flower of Attilan and the future of the Inhumans would be killed, and they would be in trouble. At this time, Lao Wang came over. Let me do it. He walked to the bed, and stretched out his left hand, and placed it on Crystal's chest. The green soothing mist filled her body, and all the viruses were forced out of her body. Crystal woke up. How do you feel? Medusa was very nervous. She lifted Crystal up, and held her in her arms. Very comfortable, better than ever before. Crystal thought for 2 seconds and said, I feel a very special energy flowing in my body. It seems to strengthen my physique. Medusa looked at Lao Wang quickly. It's true key, the energy of life itself. Lao Wang smiled and said, I can't change the genetic defects of aliens, but as long as the physical fitness is improved, the immunity will naturally improve. As long as Miss Crystal's physique is further improved, her immunity will also be enhanced to the level of normal aliens, or even the level of Earthlings. Really? Crystal immediately grabbed Lao Wang's sleeve. Then can you help me? Her eyes were burning, full of desire. Medusa frowned slightly and said, Sister, you need to rest now. Let's talk about this later. Okay. Crystal was not stupid. She quickly figured out what her sister meant and stopped pestering. Director Wang, I think we can talk about the cooperation between humans and aliens. Medusa made a pleased gesture. The old king shook his head. It has nothing to do with humans. Huh. Medusa's eyes stayed on Sky, Whip, and Gordon for a few seconds respectively. Is it related to the Inhumans on Earth? The old king smiled slightly. Division makes us weak. Unity makes us strong. The Inhumans on Earth and the Inhumans on the moon are originally one family. If they can be united, their overall strength will be greatly improved, so that when facing more powerful enemies, they will have the ability to resist. More powerful enemies? Medusa's eyes moved, with a bit of sarcasm in her eyes. Attilan has no enemies, except. Before she finished speaking, an Inhuman rushed in. This is a very special Inhuman. His eyes seemed to have undergone surgery. Two rays of light projected from his eyes, forming a huge light curtain in the air. A large number of fleets appeared in the light curtain. King, Queen, something bad has happened. The Inhuman gasped, his face full of fear. The Kree are coming. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.